Welcome to the final part of What If Kami sends Naruto back in time to fix his mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Madara's wrath and beginning of the end. Madara Uchiha was never one to sulk and moan. That being said, Madara was always one to rage, destroy and then correct when he was bested in combat. When he returned to his hideout, he had ripped through a couple hundred white zetsu before his anger was sated. It then took him another week to recover from the wounds he gained during the battle. During his recovery, he stewed over being beaten so soundly. He knew that his sage mode was nothing in comparison to the Senju boys. He knew that the Senju's techniques naturally countered his own, and his Sharingan Rinnegan weren't enough to compensate for the difference in strength. He knew that his raw chakra reserves were less than a quarter of his opponent's. That last thought made him remember feeling other yokai than that of the Kyuubi. Then he remembered the boy flying in air, and his genius mind linked the couple data points he had together rapidly. The Senju child had the Nanabi and Kyuubi dwelling within his body. Two of the strongest Biju. Madara knew that he had few choices left for him, and he began forming his plan. It took a month for Madara to safely transition the Geto Mazo into a seal on his body. It took him 2 more months for that power to integrate into his system, and Madara admitted to himself that he felt much stronger. With his own increased chakra reserves, he was able to absorb more natural energy, and his sage mode was stronger. Madara still admitted that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was stronger than him, but that was his only opponent in the shinobi world. Zetsu, I have successfully absorbed the 3, 4 and 6 tails. Where are the Jinchuriki currently? Madara asked. Black Zetsu spoke before his idiot white half-cut. The 8 tails is in Kumo, the 1 and 2 tails are most likely in Konoha. The 5 tails should have reformed by now, but we have not felt the beast since its death. And the boy has the 7 and 9 tails. Tell me, Zetsu, have you felt the 5 tails yokai since that day? No, Lord Madara. According to our best knowledge, the reformation process generally takes the number of years equal to number of tails. Black Zetsu said seriously, which was the norm for the will of Kagaya. Madara HMPHD before responding, well, if I wish to equal the Senju boy in terms of Biju power, then the only option is to go for the 8 tails. The others are either near the boy or in unknown locations. Once I have the 8 tails, I will be able to subdue the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and Project Infinite Tsukuyomi will be within reach. Yes, you fool, Zetsu thought. Just a little more and Mother will be resurrected, and the pathetic mortals will return their stolen chakra. Senju Compound, 3.5 months after Madara's attack on Konoha. Naruto was doing his favorite thing in the world. He was hanging out with his wives, children and family. Tsunade was now super pregnant and on the downhill to giving birth to something miraculous. Kurama was excited waiting on the twins, and the family was rallying around the matriarch of the Senju clan. Tsunade's pregnancy didn't stop the family from enjoying their favorite pastime, and they were doing just that while teasing their newest member. So, Shion, my girl, how was he in your humble opinion? Rias asked while wiggling her eyebrows, which made Shion shelter deeper into Naruto's chest. Oh please, Riri, Anko said through giggles, the way she was limping around this morning and the fact that she went to see Hinata first thing in the morning tells us all we need to know. While Naruto's girls were giggling and Shion was whimpering into his chest, Naruto growled at the 2 rowdy lesbians. Enough, you two. Have some decency. Tamari giggled and pulled her clone into a kiss. Oh, relax, my love. You know those 2 don't know the definition of decency. Samui added on as her clone shifted her on its lap and ran its hands up and down her thighs. Antithesis of decency. This made Rias put a hand to her chest in mock hurt, and Anko shot a pouty face at Samui. Tsunade decided to get her piece in, different strokes for different folks. So, Shion, was he everything you were hoping for? Shion blushed furiously as her head mimicked an overheated thermometer and her head nodded slowly into his chest, which made the group laugh, cheer and drink. Before the processions could continue, Naruto and his clones sat bolt upright with faraway looks in their eyes. This immediately drew everyone's attention, and then Naruto's tablet started vibrating and glowing red. Fuck, was the collective thought of everyone present. Naruto opened the tablet and a panicked Mabui was visible on the screen. Naruto, Madara is here. Raikage and be fighting him. Please come. Naruto growled and looked to Kurama and Chome. who were already walking over to return to the seal and give his yokai back. Okay, we are on our way. How long have they been fighting? 10 minutes. The Raikage told me not to call you, but it isn't looking good and Darui told me to call you. Mabui said in a panic. Got it, Mabui. Stay calm. I will be there in a flash. Naruto hung up the tablet and looked to the group. Girls, you are staying. Tell Itachi what just happened. I am going. Tsunade grabbed his arm. You fight strong, and you fight smart, do you understand me? Naruto nodded and allowed Tsunade to pull him into a hug. She whispered in his ear, you keep him safe, Q and Cho. Don't worry, Mama. If I can't win, then I will retreat. Naruto said with a confident smile on his face. He allowed his clones to give his goodbye kisses before he pressed a seal on his right shoulder. His civilian clothes disappeared in a cloud of smoke and his battle uniform appeared in a snug fit. His combat vest was a forest green with burnt orange lining with 12 sealing pockets holding scrolls on the front. His long-sleeve shirt was burnt orange with the joint clan symbol on the shoulders. The joint clan symbol was the red Uzumaki swirl with 2 crossed Senju symbols in the whirlpool. His pants were black with burnt orange lining and went down into black combat boots with burnt orange laces. Naruto let Ino develop his uniform and she conceded to Naruto that burnt orange was a much better ninja color than the vibrant orange of his previous life. The overall aesthetic was pretty cool and very unique, especially when he added the haori over the back that carried the emblem of Kurama with the joint clan symbol on Kurama's chest. The fully equipped Naruto rattled off a cheeky salute before disappearing in a golden flash. Tsunade jumped into leader mode and began issuing orders to her family, who had all sobered up rapidly. They all thanked Tsunade for teaching them that jutsu. Gaara went to call his father and notify Suna, Hinata called Kiri and Yami called Wave. Enko went to report to Itachi, the girls went to notify the clan heads and the children were taken to the safe room by Hikari. The Senju compound knew better than anyone the threat their children were under in Naruto's absence. Chaos in the clouds. I was huffing as he worked alongside his brother to fight against the legendary shinobi. Madara showed up at B's mountainside home temple training ground and he tripped the alarm seals. I was able to blast, kick, punch and obliterate his way through the army of white Zetsu that tried to stop him. He told his shinobi to engage the threat and rushed towards the sound of battle that were echoing through the mountains. He arrived to see B's Akurobito style, the 7-blade wielding style, defeated by Madara. As B's final sword was severed, I launched a lightning lariat into the side of Madara's neck. The arm was halted by an ethereal blue ribcage, but the momentum was enough to send Madara flying back nearly 300 feet. I saw B transition into his fighting position and the AB combo was ready to go and fight the legendary Uchiha. I told Mabui to hold off on requesting reinforcements. We should be enough to handle this guy. I said confidently as he fixed his eyes on Madara's torso. B4 went his rapping to notify his brother of the current situation. Bro, Yuki says he cannot come out. He can sense the Geto Mazo in Madara, and those eyes would be able to pull him out. He has a Rinnegan and Sharingan and he beat me easily in Kenjutsu. I knew it was deadly serious when B wasn't rapping, and he immediately encased himself in lightning armor. Combo 3, brother. Madara scoffed as he watched the brothers talk. You two are nothing compared to my main target. If you surrender the Hachibi to me, I will spare your village its destruction. If you continue this fight, I will destroy your village's retribution. I growled, I am not giving my brother or his partner to you. Kumo will rise and eliminate the threat to the world. That's right, fool ya fool, I will not die before I even try. I am Killer B, Jinchuriki of the mighty Hachibi. B roared as he charged into a flanking position. B and I fought a losing battle that scaled up over the next 10 minutes. Madara was eventually forced to enter his yokai cloak which flamed violently over his personage. The flames represented the fact that the yokai was wild and not properly synchronized, but it was still a massive power-up. As the two brothers fought on the back foot and Darui led the shinobi against the horde of white Zetsu, Naruto arrived in Kumo's cage tower since that was where the Hiraishin beacon was. Mabui, sitrep. Naruto said in a commanding tone as he entered GSM. Main forces are led by Darui and fighting white Zetsu. Raikage is at B's training ground. Yugito is in safe house with your seals, and she is not happy. Mabui snapped out. I can feel the Raikage and B's Hiraishin seals now. I am heading there. Keep the teleporter up, reinforcements should arrive shortly. Naruto said before vanishing in a golden flash. Mabui offered a quick prayer to Kami before going to the command room and coordinating Ai's forces as he fought against Madara. Naruto arrived in a golden flash to a horrifying scene. Ai was missing his left arm and there was a wound over his heart that was cauterized as Ai forced his lightning armor to crackle into existence again. He looked over to the clash and saw an ethereal chakra trail linking Madara and B. He blurred into motion in a streak of gold, and he crashed a mountain breaker palm into Madara's shoulder. Madara was surprised by the arrival of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and he was distracted by the chakra tug of war. He wasn't able to sever the connection in time and was forced to absorb the most painful blow that cracked through his emerging Susanoo protection effortlessly. This time, Madara didn't simply fly a couple hundred feet. He was sent careening into the base of a mountain after skipping violently off the ground a couple of times. The enormous crater in the mountain that sent dust flying into the sky was the testament to the strength of Naruto's blow. With a moment to breathe, Naruto created 2 wood clones to tend to Ai and B. He also created 10 more that went to assist Kumo's forces against the White Zetsu clones. And just like that, the time he bought with his first strike was used before he felt a large flare of yokai and senjutsu chakra. Madara's perfect Susanoo emerged in the mountain ranges of Kumo and it sprouted wings from its back as senjutsu markings began combining with the yokai to encase the Susanoo and make it stronger. With Madara, Black Zetsu was in the sleeve of his cloak and the creature spoke in an imploring fashion to his creator, Lord Madara, he is still too much for you. This statement was ignored as Madara ordered his Susanoo into the sky. Naruto growled as his opponent used his cursed eyes and stolen power to threaten the people Naruto loved. Naruto knew that this Madara wasn't on the same level as when he was in his Biju mode, but Naruto could feel the yokai of Kurama's siblings trapped in Madara. Ruto, he sealed the Geto Mazo, Isobu, Son Goku and Saiken into himself. I can feel all of their chakras. Kurama informed him through the mind link. Naruto synchronized with his 2 Biju partners and a flaming golden blur raced through the sky towards the massive Susanoo construct. Naruto focused chakra into his fist and threw it forward with a roar as his fist grew with Mokuden chakra like an Akamichi expansion jutsu. By the time the Mokuden fist slammed into the Susanoo, it was nearly the size of one of the hands of the true several thousand hands jutsu Naruto had showed off in his duel against the Raikage. The impact of Susanoo's swords and the Mokuden fist sent a shockwave through the air that tore through the mountain ranges of Kumo like a violent tempest. Madara was surprised when his Susanoo's momentum was reversed, and he was sent flying into the same mountain he just pulled himself out of. Since Naruto remained airborne, he soared into the sky in an attempt to recreate Sage Arts, Wrath of Heaven and Earth. With the amount of power radiating through the mountains, Madara was able to sense where Naruto was as easily as he could track the sun on a cloudless day. That didn't stop Madara's eyes from widening when he saw a sky dragon descending upon his position. Madara's Rinnegan flared to life, and he poured the potent yokai into the jutsu as he roared out with Susanoo's hands extended with a Shinra Tensai. The sky dragon clashed against the gravitational wave and the resulting wind gale was about 10 times stronger than the previous mid-air clash. The nearby mountains were torn asunder by the devastating winds and Naruto was sent flying high into the sky while the downward draft nearly flattened Madara's Susanoo. Madara was panting from the effort of the jutsu and sustaining his Susanoo's new form. That didn't stop his heart from racing and his mind from embracing the battle mania that he cherished so much. Madara's Susanoo bent its legs and launched into the sky at terrifying speeds to where it could feel his opponent. Naruto righted himself mid-air somewhere near the lower stratosphere and he breathed rapidly as the air thinned and went cold. Without his protective yokai cloak, it is likely that he would have frozen over. However, cold air has nothing on the potent power of the yokai cloak. Naruto hovered momentarily and began gathering momentum as he sensed Madara's ascension. Do we have anything that can punch through the Susanoo? Naruto thought internally. Biju Rasengan. Kurama offered. It's kind of our signature move, after all. That sounds exciting. We need to be careful though, we are still too close to Kumo. Chomei offered. Naruto decided to accept Kurama's opinion and he began condensing the yokai in his palm and spinning it rapidly as he descended down into the richer air of the lower atmosphere. Once he had it controlled, he focused on condensing the yokai even further rather than making it bigger. His brow wrinkled in concentration as he flew towards the massive blue form of Susanoo. Seems like Madara wanted to keep the fight in midair to negate his advantage with Mokuten. Madara felt the wild flare of yokai, and he saw the potent jutsu held in the senju's hand. Even he was wary of such a jutsu, but his momentum combined with the speed of his opponent made the clash unavoidable. Madara focused his 4 swords of Susanoo into one and he encased them in the flames of Amaterasu. With his attack point made, he surged chakra to the Susanoo's wings and soared faster towards his opponent. Naruto saw the potent technique and had flashbacks of him and Sasuke clashing their strongest jutsus together time and time again in a test of strength. Rather than taking that approach, Naruto was going to fight smarter this time around. That was why he had a second chance, after all. Naruto focused on using the wings to guide his plummet towards Mother Earth and he dodged around the flames of Amaterasu while 4 Mokuten chains slammed into the side of the swords, pushing them further off their path. Naruto swerved around the blades and Naruto had milliseconds to aim his attack at the jewel on the head of the Susanoo. The Bid Rasengan clashed briefly against the protective jewel before the jewel started cracking before shattering completely. Madara wasn't a legendary shinobi for nothing as his instincts guided him to ditch ship and he dove out of the way and used his Rinnegan to fly away from the immense explosion that was caused by the Rasengan detonating in the Susanoo. Naruto let go of the Rasengan inside the Susanoo, which caused it to destabilize and detonate. Naruto flashed away to the Hiraishin beacon that he could still feel on Yuki. The size of the explosion deceptively belied the size of the Rasengan as the explosion appeared like a nuke that detonated nearly a mile above the peaks of the mountains. As the sky was torn asunder, it let the earth feel its wrath as devastating winds peeled away at the stalwart crusts of the earth. Anything that was on the surface was shredded and flattened while the underlayer of the earth that had been denied sunlight for decades was exposed. Madara was too close to the point of impact and explosion as it detonated. His vision erupted in a brilliant white despite the concentrated yokai and protection of Susanoo. Madara was sent rag-dolling through the air for miles and miles since the explosion had rendered him unconscious. Even Black Zetsu was useless as the parasite clung to Madara's skin for dear existence. B watched from the ground with his jaw dropped before a tired Yuki rallied him to provide shelter for his brother's body. With Madara no longer near, Yuki took his Biju form and protected his dear brother. With Darui, the order to erect defenses came just in time to shelter his men from the violent winds with a variety of water and stone walls. After the first disturbance caused by the winds, the 500-strong force of Kumo's quick reaction force had broken contact with the White Zetsu and relied on Naruto's clones to hunt out the infiltrating plant people. All were forced to stop what they were doing as the brief, but violent clash between Madara and Naruto demanded their attention. 3 waves of wind and chunks of earth, each one stronger and more violent than the next, slammed into the mountain battlefield of Kumo versus the Zetsu army. In between each wind gale, the shinobi and Zetsu watched transfixed as a nearly godly battle ensued in the skies over Kumo's mountains. The Kumo shinobi watched in reverence as their ally fought against the boogeyman of the shinobi. World past and present in order to protect Kumo. The Zetsu were distracted by the overflowing natural energy that saturated the Kumo mountains. Mabui watched from the Raikage Tower after the first gale of wind shattered the windows of the Raikage Tower. She held her hands over her mouth as she saw the first wave of reinforcements arrive from the teleportation tower. Konoha was the first to arrive and the teleportation tower flashed 4 times total. That meant 40 shinobi of Konoha were present and Kumo needed to recharge the tower amidst the raging battle. Shisui, the rookies, and many other Konoha shinobi watched another series of miraculous events take place in the sky over Kumo. Unfreaking believable, Hana Inazuka whispered in a stunned reverence as she stood next to her boyfriend. That isn't something men were meant to do, Genma whispered as his senbon clattered to the ground. Shisui shook his head and chuckled as his M circled animatedly in his eyes to absorb the far-off battle. That's just Naruto. Shisui clapped his hands and broke the entranced state of his troops. All right, focus people, we are here to help evacuate and defend our allies. A bold officer dropped next to Shisui. We have evacuated the lower mountain and the western peak. We need your help on the eastern peak, and we will send the next wave to mid-mountain. Who do you have recharging the chakra battery? Shisui asked. Yugito insisted on doing it since we are barring her from joining the battle, the officer replied. Very well. Genma, take Squad 1. Hana Squad 2, Katetsu take Squad 3 and Squad 4 is with me. Shisui shouted out his order. Katetsu, in his new and shiny Jonin vest, turned to his squad and did everything he could to hold back the excitement in his voice. This was so much better than gate guard duty. Alright, let's move out. Katetsu ignored the crack in his voice as he shouted his order and followed on Bolt Shinobi to his sector. Madara regained consciousness while flying through the sky and he could see droplets of blood hovering in a rapidly disappearing trail as he plummeted through the skies at astonishing speeds. He shook out the cobwebs and cleared his head as his M's flared back to life. A much smaller and weaker Susanoo formed around his rag-dolling figure, and he was able to stabilize his flight and slow his momentum. He hovered a couple hundred feet over the earth and was glad that he regained consciousness in time to avoid a devastating clash with the earth. Naruto broke his eyes away from the skyline as Madara left his detecting range. That meant that Madara was at least 100 miles away and somewhere in Iwa. As his thoughts cleared and he brought his senses back to around him, he processed the panicked screams of B that was shaking his brother. Naruto was instantly at B's side and his hands were glowing a defiant gold as he did what he could to revive the Raikage. B watched through teary eyes as his ally and brother in burden tried to heal his brother. B was still in denial, he couldn't accept what his senses were telling him. After sheltering his brother from the devastating effects of the clash against Madara, B knew that his brother was no longer here. His heart had stopped beating and the chakra had ceased moving in his system. It wasn't Naruto's fault, there were limitations to what even he could do. Naruto struggled to focus and steady the chakra in his hands. He too was in a state of denial. He didn't want to lose a precious person and the images of Samui crying haunted his thoughts and distracted his chakra. He denied the feeling of eyes-stilled chakra and the lack of a beating heart. He forced his chakra into the Raikage's body and forced the wound over his heart to repair itself. The cauterized wound to the heart began to turn a fleshy red and the charcoal-like singed flesh disappeared. Despite that, in micro-shocks to the heart, the Raikage's body refused to accept the life-giving chakra. Without a soul to anchor it to his body, it was like pushing water through a leaky container. The Zetsu army retreated into the ground once Madara was sent flying since their purpose had been fulfilled. Hundreds of their clone brethren lay scattered over the uneven terrain of Kumo's mountains and their chakra will return to the earth forgotten and unwanted. The Kumo force held in their cheers and darted to provide relief to B and their Raikage. It took them mere minutes to find the devastated battleground and they all froze when they saw Naruto hovering over their Raikage with B leaking tears by his side. Naruto refused to accept the reality of the situation. Tears of defiance and frustration fell from his eyes and evaporated under the intense influence of his chakra. The cloak glowed vibrantly in the dark mountains as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki did everything he could to defy the natural order. It wasn't until Darui walked over and placed a calming hand on Naruto's shoulder that Naruto was broken from his single-minded task. Naruto looked up with a snarl on his face that instantly dissipated when he saw the pained visage of Darui. Naruto's chakra cloak fizzled out and he sank to his knees in despair as his ears refused to hear the comforting reassurances offered by his partners and allies. Naruto absently trailed the procession of Kumo shinobi that carried the Raikage's lifeless body back to Kumo. His tears grew in frequency and intensity as the wails of the shinobi on Kumo's walls entered his ears. His connection to nature resonated with the overwhelming despair of a village losing its leader. His guilt grew and his heart throbbed as his body natural converted the despair to a will to defy all. His visage hardened and he instinctively did something that momentarily horrified the Kumo shinobi before it gifted them a sense of peace and acceptance. Naruto caught up to the Kumo shinobi and took some of the blood off of the Raikage's combat uniform. The procession halted and silence encompassed the front gates of Kumo as Naruto flickered into GSM and went through hand seals. A wood clone sprouted and once the hand seals were finished the clone was surrounded by paper and ash before the Raikage was standing in the presence of his shinobi and village. I didn't know how long he was drifting, but he knew that he hadn't made it to the pure world that Naruto had talked to him about. Suddenly, he felt a pull and before he knew it the familiar view of Kumo was in front of him and he could see all of the men and women he loved with all of his heart. He turned his head to the golden figure and saw a sad look on his face. Amidst the eerie silence, he turned around and saw his men holding his dead body. This instantly made him snap back to Naruto with a look on his face that said, "Explain, brat. I fought off Madara, but I couldn't save you." Ai's eyes fell in understanding, and he clapped a massive hand on Naruto's shoulder before he continued. I wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye." Ai removed his hand from Naruto's shoulder and pulled the young man's chin up. "Thank you, Ruto. Thank you for giving me this chance." I dropped Naruto's chin and turned to address his shinobi. He idly noted that there was Suna, Kiri and Konoha shinobi present as well. He closed his eyes and sorted his thoughts before he began his final address. "My fellow shinobi, do not cry for me." I look around and I see the proud men and women of Kumo standing side by side with their allies. I see something never before seen in our world. I see an alliance of nations that are committed to bringing the world into a new age. It fills my soul with joy to see this, and it was my greatest honor to serve you and our people with all I had. I paused here and wiped tears from his eyes as siffles erupted from the stoic shinobi watching. I want you to take heart and steel your courage for the trials to come. Do not deviate from the good path we have been walking on because of my death. Fight this fight and come out victorious on the other side. Find strength in your allies, take heart in the bonds of friendship and love, and do not let the good work we have done so far be for nothing. I trust Darui of Kumo to lead you into this new age of peace, and I name him my successor." The sobbing halted at this pronouncement and a reverent silence fell over the thousands watching as Darui, Mabui, B and Yugito moved forward. Darui dropped to a knee in front of the Raikage and his shoulders were bouncing arrhythmically as choked sobs tore from his chest, heart and throat. The other three took positions behind Darui and placed comforting hands on the kneeling man's shoulders. I placed a comforting hand on Darui's head and ruffled his white hair a bit. "Darui, I chose you because I trust you implicitly. I know this will be a drag, but you are the right man for the job. Protect my family and my village. Protect this alliance and trust your heart to guide you. I, the 4th Raikage of Kumogakure, name you the 5th Raikage and entrust our people to you." Ai's tone was soft and reverent, but it carried such a durable strength that it halted the sobs that were tearing through Darui. Darui sniffled one last time and cleared the snot from his nose before looking up to Ai with a fiery resolve in his eyes. "I accept, Lord Raikage. Thank you for everything. You were, are and always will be family to me." I ruffled Darui's hair and turned his gaze to Mabui before he pulled her into a tender hug. "I am sorry, my love. I didn't want to leave you alone like this." Mabui buried her head into Ai's chest. "You stubborn idiot." She pulled herself further into the hulking form of Ai, who wrapped his arms around her. "I love you." I tenderly pushed her away from him, lifted her chin and placed a tender kiss on her lips. "I love you too, I will wait for you on the other side." Mabui once again buried herself in Ai's chest as the Raikage addressed his brother. He held out a bent arm and clasped fists with B. "Fool ya fool. It just ain't cool." B sniffled before growing serious. "I am going to miss you, brother. Rest easy, I will protect Kumo while you sleep." I gave an appreciative look to his brother. "I know you will. Help the brat here defeat that fossil and find a good woman, B. That is all I want for you. Be happy." B nodded as tears once again poured out of his eyes. "I will, bro. Go say hello to Lady Kami, tell her to wait for me, because no man can compare to Killer B of Kumo, we." I chuckled resignedly before unclasping his hand from B's before turning a softer look to Yugito. "You know, kiddo, I am so proud of you. You overcame so much and grew into a stunning woman. I want you to know that I count you among my family, you and that crazy kitty inside you." Yugito wiped away her tears and joined Mabui in hugging the Raikage. The tender sight broke hearts and wrung tears out of every viewer present. Yugito stifled her sniffling and raised her head to address her Raikage and honorary father, uncle. "Thank you, Lord Raikage. Thank you so much, for everything, I love you." I ruffled Yugito's hair with a caring smile on his face. "I won't let you down. I know, kiddo. I know you won't. I will be looking down on you, so just look after my knucklehead brother and help Darui run things." Ai's deep and soft voice rumbled through his chest and reverberated through Yugito. After breaking the hug, I gave Mabui another kiss and gave everyone a final look. As shouts of adoration and gratitude poured out from those on the walls of Kumo, I turned to Naruto. With a grateful look, I nodded to Naruto with a peaceful smile on his face. Thank you, Naruto. I will say hi to your old man for you. Naruto chuckled, please do. Give my mom a hug from me while you're at it. Rest easy, I will help preserve all you have built. With that, Naruto undid his version of the impure world resurrection, and let Ai's soul find rest among the heroes of Kami's realm. The rest of the procession to the Raikage's tower was somber, but there was a firm resolve present in the sadness. It was no longer overwhelming, rather, it was reverent and respectful. As Ai's body was taken to a safe place, Kumo rallied itself to reinforce defenses and get their feet back under themselves. It was a long and somber night, but the second major clash between Madara and the allied forces set things in motion that could no longer be halted. Plans for the end. Ai's funeral was held a week after Madara's attack on Kumo. Shinobi from all over the allied nations arrived in Kumo to pay their respects. It was a solemn event that served to demonstrate the will of the alliance despite the strength of the enemy. The speeches commemorating Ai, and his reign as the fourth Raikage, were given by the leaders of Kumo as well as Samui. They told stories of Ai's will to protect the people of Lightning Country, and they shared parts of his journey to change his dream into a will to better the elemental nations as a whole. The funeral and the speeches were broadcasted throughout Lightning Country, and the will of the people was galvanized against the threat that Madara Uchiha represented. The foreign shinobi present shared the message with their own people. Some of the smaller nations also heard the message and began to think of coming to the table to offer their support. The result of Madara's attempt to gain power by attacking Kumo resulted in the whole of the allied forces knowing the stakes that they were fighting for. Naruto returned to Konoha with the Senju clan, and the atmosphere was somber. As Senjus do, they gathered in the Senju garden and shared a drink in honor of Ai. They comforted Samui by offering their perspective on the fond times in Kumo, and they listened to Samui share her memories of the former Raikage and the impact Ai had on her life. Samui's cheeks were flush, and she was giggling a bit. Hee, you know, Mabui told me that the Raikage cost Kumo almost $200,000 in building repairs last year. She sipped on some more sake in the lap of her lover. He always let his excitement get the best of him, and I will always remember how he would jump out of the Raikage tower or smash his fists together in excitement or crush his desk in frustration. Samui trailed off and leaned her head into Naruto's chest. Naruto rested his head on top of Samui's own in a comforting manner. He was a good man. His eccentricities made him unique and amazing. How is B holding up? Tsunade asked tenderly. Samui frowned a bit. He is blaming himself. He has sworn not to rap until Madara has been dealt with. It is strange seeing him so somber and serious. Rias adjusted the passed-out Kushina in her lap and added, yeah, Yugito is taking it hard too. She was so mad that she was kept out of the fight, and then her anger turned to despair when I died. Naruto frowned a bit and pulled Samui closer. I am going to hunt him. I am done letting him hit and run. How? Yami asked seriously. He had been cuddling into Tayuya, but he sat up bolt straight when he heard Naruto say that. I marked him. Naruto said under his breath. Come again. Everyone was thinking, but it was Tsunade that said it. When I arrived in the fight, during my first shot on him, placed a Hiraishin marker on his shoulder. He may be able to hide his own chakra, but if I am close enough, then I will be able to feel that marker. If he is hiding in Iwa, then it should be the only one in that country. Naruto informed the group. Ruto, did you tell this to Itachi or the other Kage? Tsunade asked seriously, and everyone was now in business mode. Not yet, Naruto admitted. I don't know if I want to involve them in this fight. Gaki, you aren't in this alone. Enko said fiercely. I am not letting you fight against Madara, Obito, and whoever else he has alone either. Tamari growled passionately. As Naruto began holding up his hands, Ino added to the assault. Ruto, no way. There is no way we will let you go alone. Naruto sighed. Forgive me. I am not strong enough. This caused everyone to pause before he admitted. I am not strong enough to lose you, even one of you. I couldn't. Each girl pulled their clone or original into a comforting and passionate hug, but it was the matriarch of the family that spoke up, and that is the same for us, brat. You built up this family, you gathered allies, now is the time to use them. This statement from Tsunade earned a passionate affirmation from every member gathered in the Senju Gardens, even Shikamaru. Naruto relented. Fine, I will ask Itachi to call a Kage meeting for tomorrow. Mama, I know you want in, but you need to focus on the baby. If I let my family come, then we need you to hold down the fort. Tsunade growled and crossed her arms under her bust and over her baby belly. Fine, brat. If you die, I am getting Kami to revive you so that I can kill you myself. Shion giggled at that. I think Lady Kami would be willing to do that for you, Mama. She said innocently, making Naruto pale as Shion glommed onto him. The next day, Itachi brought Naruto, Jiraiya and Shisui with him into the council chambers where Mei, Ao, Chojuro and Zabuza were representing Kiri. Raza showed up with Gaara, Kankuro and Baki, who were followed shortly by Darui, Yugito, B and Shi. As everyone sat down, Itachi nodded to Naruto, who stood up to inform them why they were called. I asked you here today to notify you of a development and to form a hunting party to end the war. Naruto said forcefully, which earned stirs and slight cracks in the stoic masks of the cage. What changed, Naruto? Raza asked. When I entered I and B's fight against Madara, I placed a Hirishin marker on him. I cannot feel it from this far away, but I will be able to feel it if I am close enough. Naruto answered. So, you are just going to run around the world until you feel it? Mei asked dubiously. No, I am going to run through Iowa. I don't have many markers in that country, and I should be able to sense it more clearly. Naruto answered. You are going to run through the country that hates you the most. The same country we are at war with? Itachi questioned incredulously. Yup. Naruto answered simply. Me and 100 clones or so. Raza rubbed his temples while Gaara and Kankuro snickered behind him. And how are we supposed to reinforce you if you do this? You will be alone in enemy territory, and we don't even know if Madara is in Earth country. Well, he is not in Rain country, I confirmed that yesterday. Naruto admitted with a shrug of his shoulders. He is also not at his old base of operations. That points me to Earth country. Your part will purely be a scouting mission, correct? Itachi asked hopefully. At first, Naruto answered. Devilishly, but he was forced to continue when everyone looked at him expectantly. I will locate him, and we can gather elite forces with the teleporters. You guys will likely move in from the Suna border and I will go straight to my beacon. What will we do to detect the White Zetsu? Darui asked since he knew the chaos those damnable creatures caused. My siblings volunteered to take part in these operations. They can each use Sage Mode and detect negative emotions, to an extent. Naruto informed the council. To be clear, those were your previous alters, right? Mei asked hesitantly. Technically, yes. Although, I would like to point out they are no longer bound to me, and they are completely self-sustaining. And they will be able to detect the White Zetsu. Darui asked for confirmation and Naruto nodded. Itachi sighed and rubbed his eyes. Why did this now? Why let Madara keep the initiative? Why let him strike us separately? I can find him, and I will end him. Naruto answered passionately. How are we to prevent his spatial movement or prevent him from fleeing? Itachi continued the questioning. Naruto threw several bundles of seal tags on the desk. Spread out and have shinobi power those. During the search, I will put their sister tags around the northwestern border of Iowa. I will lock the whole country down. This will take 200 shinobi out of the fight, but there you go. 200 shinobi to lock down a whole country. Mei asked with a confused look on her face that just made her look even cuter. This is just locking the spacetime within a set space. The tags pull most of the required energy from natural energy, but they require a shinobi conduit to counterbalance the natural energy. It was the best I could do with the time I had. Naruto informed the cage. Unbelievable. Raza muttered. Just lock the space, it's as simple as that. He, frickin' Uzumakis. Gaara put a supportive and understanding hand on his rambling father's shoulder while Kankuro snickered. Raza, can we begin teleporting shinobi quietly to Suna? I would like at least 2,000 or 3,000 to participate in this. Itachi asked. Darui stepped in. Kumo would like all Bolt officials and Jonin to join this operation. They number 1,500. That is a lot of people to send through the teleporters. We have to do it that way, otherwise the Zetsu will detect the troop movements. Itachi cautioned. We will power the teleporters. B said in a serious tone as he stepped forward. We will do it for free. I will go to Suna and power theirs to compensate for all of the required chakra. No need to do it alone, B. Gaara said with an understanding smile on his face. We can do it in shifts. Just get half of your people across first and then you can take over for me. Okay, so that's 150 jumps from Kumo. I would say I have 500 that I want to send, so another 50 jumps. May. Itachi ended with a question. Kiri will participate. I will match Konoha and commit 500. Some of those will be Chunin though, our forces are still recovering from the war. May said with a slight bit of shame. Don't press yourself, May. Naruto started. I do not want individuals joining when they are unprepared. Naruto is right, the white Zetsu will turn them into a liability. Itachi backed up his student. Then, I can commit 300. May said with her head hung low. That is more than enough. Naruto answered happily before turning serious again. Look, here is the thing. Madara sealed the Geto Mazo, which contains the Sanbi, Gobi and Rokubi, into himself. They still don't equal me alone, but part of the fight will be extracting the Geto Mazo. To control the statue I will need to take Madara's eyes. Say what? May asked in confusion. Come again. Raza added. The Geto Mazo is the husk of the Jubi and only a Rinnegan wielder can control it. I am not going to leave the Biju trapped in that damned statue. Naruto answered with fire in his tone. Sai, can you pull it off? Itachi asked. Naruto shrugged, it will make things tougher, but I should be able to. Okay, craziness aside, what will the allied forces be doing? May asked trying to get back on task. Kurama and Chome watched from within the seal as the plan formed. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't foolproof, in fact, it was pretty rough. There were plenty of holes and it depended heavily on the element of surprise. The allies had numbers and passion on their side though. It was amazing to see how seriously each village took the death of a Kage. The troop movements began shortly following the return of the Kage to their respective villages and the final clash was imminent. Do you think he can use Father's eyes? Chome asked Kurama. Kurama scoffed, of course he can. He already has mastery over 4 of the domains and if he were an Uchiha the damned eyes would have evolved into the Rinnegan long ago. His vitality and chakra are more than enough to bear the burden of the Rinnegan. Chome chittered nervously, do you think he should take them? This question was different to Kurama. This was a far more introspective question and Kurama admitted that he took a while to think this answer over. I don't know. I trust him to make the right decision. Back at the Senju compound, Naruto went to inform the family of the plans. Evidently, Yosuke and Haku came from wave after Yami told them about Naruto's plan. They both demanded to be part of the attacking force and Naruto relented. Naruto took this opportunity to inform them of what he wanted them to do. He was going to attach them to shinobi divisions to protect them from the threat of the White Zetsu. This made Tsunade nervous, but nobody could talk the Senju family out of mobilizing. Shien pulled him aside after hearing his plan and she looked at him with frigidity locked in her golden orbs. You will not take those eyes. Naruto cocked his head and looked at her in confusion, why? I need to free the Biju from the demonic statue of the outer path. Shien bonked Naruto on the head, Baka, did you have the Rinnegan when you pulled them out of the statue last time around? No. Then why would you need it this time around? Shien pressed. Because Madara sealed the statue in himself, plus, I don't have any of their chakra, so I won't be able to link with them and pull them out of the statue, Naruto answered softly and unsurely. Baka, if you defeat Madara, your first mission for Kami is accomplished. Just focus on defeating that zombie. Shien said firmly, and make sure you come back to me, we still need to get married and have our eternal test run. She ended by pulling Naruto by the collar of his shirt and placed a passionate kiss on his lips. Well, I wouldn't say no to some more practice, Naruto whispered huskily into Shien's ear. The earthly representation of the goddess of creation shook her head and enjoyed her night with Naruto. It wasn't her place to get involved in earthly wars or the affairs of mortal men. Except her man, but he was clearly an exception to the rule. That didn't stop her from her nervous agitation caused by her visions. Kami had disabled her omnipotence for the experiment, but Shien's body still had the power of the third eye. She was still able to see people's deaths and as the day of battle neared, her visions became more and more frequent, and she simply hoped that Naruto would not be in one of them. 1 week later, Tsunagakure. Naruto yawned and woke up in a bed that filled him with joy. It had Been a while since he had spent a night in Suna and he was grateful to be back at one of the first places he called home, at least this time around. As the warm desert sun shone through the window, Naruto cracked his eyes open and thanked Kami for the wondrous sight, and who could blame him? 3 blonde heads, 6 beautiful breasts and 3 faces of women he loved the most in any world lay in their selected spots on his body. Naruto knew that he had been overly serious and not as attentive as he should have been since this nonsense with Madara started. Perhaps that was why he decided to get up to some mischief this morning with his women. With a thought 3 clones were formed and in less than 10 seconds his girls were bound to the head of the bed with the real Naruto resting peacefully amidst the cluster of bodies. The movement caused the girls to begin stirring from the land of dreams, but not before the clones began their assigned tasks. Naruto closed his eyes and soaked in the moans and groans from his women that escalated into a beautiful symphony as they orgasmed. By this time, the girls were awake and squirming, but they couldn't do anything with their heads bound to the headboard in chakra-dampening cuffs. Naruto ignored their pleas to free their hand as the clones unsheathed their swords to plunge them into the 3 fine sheaths the ladies presented. Now feeling left out, Naruto shifted underneath Samui and slid his cock into her ass, which earned an extra loud groan of ecstasy from the busty blonde. The first time Naruto did that to her nearly made her pass out in a mixture of pain and pleasure. Now, her body craved him like no other and it demanded her passages get ravaged by the man she loved. Samui enjoyed every bit of the first 20 minutes that she was tended to by Naruto and his clone before her eyes rolled back. With Samui pleased, Naruto slid under Temari and gave her a similar treatment. Temari was probably the one that liked anal the most and she had been waiting contentedly since the session began. While one Naruto was great, excellent, mind-blowing, 2 Narutos took Temari to the next level and she matched his frantic pace with her own hips. Her contributions made Naruto release his second load within 15 minutes, and Temari whimpered as Naruto pulled himself out and wriggled out from below her. Amidst the moans of his girls, Naruto finally settled down under Ino who had lost count of her orgasms from the wood clone that had been pleasing her for nearly 40 minutes now. That didn't stop her from squealing in delight when it was now her turn. She moaned in content as Naruto played with her breasts and she squealed in delight when she felt her passages shift to accommodate the new sensation. Ino was the most verbose of his women and she made Naruto truly grateful for privacy seals. As the foursome was cuddling in bed, Temari's mind finally cleared enough to ask a question. Not that I am not grateful, Ruto, but what was that for? The other 2 blondes seemed to clear their minds at this question, and they cuddled further into Naruto as his chest reverberated while answering, well, I realize that I have been a bit broody and distracted. So, I wanted to treat you girls today. Samui ran her hands up and down Naruto's abs as she asked, is that the only reason why? Naruto sighed contentedly from the tender ministrations of his women, no. This caused the hands to stop their playful wondering and they all looked to him. I am nervous. I am fighting against Madara. I know I am strong, but that fight last time nearly ended the world. Ino pulled Naruto into a tender kiss, I have faith in you. The other girls muttered their affirmations as well. I know, my loves, I know. Naruto soothed, but, in case this was my last day in the mortal realm, I wanted to treat you. I wanted to let you know that I love you. I wanted to make you feel that you are the most important thing in the world to me. Then when, Temari said forcefully with a dash of tender love. I agree with Mari, I know you can do it, so just get it done. Ino followed up almost immediately. It will be cool. I know you will win. Samui said before crawling up his chest and placing a sexy kiss that tasted like heaven on his lips. So, where did you find them? Temari asked. Fuji Mountain, about 5 miles south-southwest of Iwagakure. Naruto answered. I didn't go in for visual, but I left a clone to spy on them. There are white Zetsu all over the country and I felt Obito, Madara and a couple strong signatures there. My clones haven't popped, so they haven't moved out yet. Ino chuckled, hee, Madara is probably still licking his wounds. After hearing what happened to the mountain range, I can't really blame him. Samui started. Karui said that Kumo's Rest, which were the 6 mountains surrounding B's home, are now rubble. Yeah, the clash between Madara and I was destructive. It was crazy because we didn't even fight on the ground. It was all collateral damage from our clashes in the air. Naruto said. Well, it's a good thing that is one of your so-called domains, Ino said cheekily. Naruto chuckled, yeah, he definitely didn't get the advantage he thought he would. I need to do something special for Chome to thank her for that. Oh, I wouldn't worry about that. She was giggling like a fangirl as she told us the story. She said that she was just happy to synchronize with you again. Temari said while shaking her head. Samui kissed his abs, yeah, it's cool. I would be jealous if she didn't have Shino. Ino giggled, yeah, well, I mean we get to sync while meditating with him, and that's kind of similar. Temari whined, I want to feel that with Kokuo. In good time, my love. Your link with him is still growing. Naruto soothed his blonde with soft words and a tender kiss. So, any plans for this time around? Samui asked to get the conversation back on topic. Well, the barrier will contain him to Earth Country, more or less. I don't think he will have time to focus on breaking it. So, I want to fight him and try a new jutsu Q and I have been working on. Naruto said. New jutsu? Temari inquired. Is it a wind type? No, and it's not really new. More like a variation of one we already know. Naruto added. Let's just say you should be able to see it from wherever you are in Iowa. So, the big guns, Samui asked. That's cool. Naruto stood in front of the team chosen to accompany Naruto directly. They were some of the strongest men and women he had ever worked with, and he had the utmost faith in them. The Kage, Gaara, Temari, Kakuro, Yugito, Shi, Kakashi, Might Guy, Zabuza, Chojuro, Haku, Shisui, Itachi and Neji stood lined up in front of him. They were captains with their own assigned sectors and responsibilities. Gaara was to lead the western flank and he would be on Zetsu duty with Hinata and Yami acting as the censors. Temari would be to Gaara's east and working with Hikari, who insisted on helping to at least sense the Zetsu. B and Yugito would hold down the middle. Zabuza and Might Guy would work with the joint forces to bring up the two companies to the eastern flank with Yosuke as their censor. Shi, Chojuro and Haku were in charge of the shinobi that would be spreading out and powering the Uzumaki arts, space denial, seals. Shisui, Itachi and Kakashi were to accompany Naruto and deal with Obito. The original 200 shinobi were grown to 400 to power the barrier. The Kage each insisted on making sure that this would be the decisive battle and they wanted to make sure the barrier couldn't be disrupted. Alright, guys, we are marching into enemy territory. Naruto started. I would expect resistance from Iowa, but we can't let them distract us from our mission. They should be crippled after their failure in Iron Country. Stay focused and don't let Zetsu surprise you. During my scouting, I felt them all over, especially around Iowa. We move out at full speed, and we camp tonight 10 miles away from the border. At 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, we move into Iowa and my team will speed ahead of the main force and get ready to confront Madara. Gaara stood by his father and Kage. Will we not have to worry about white Zetsu in the desert? I have 100 clones along the border that are hunting the white Zetsu. They cannot escape my sensory abilities, so they should pull back into Iowa. Naruto answered. Won't that tip them off? Mei asked. Naruto shrugged. They may know we are doing something, but they won't know what. The important thing is to get the barrier up before they decide to bail. Darui put a calming hand on B's shoulder, but the Kumo Jinchuriki snarled at Madara's name. Are you sure I can't come with you, Ruto? Fool ya fool. Naruto shook his head. No, I don't want any other Jinchuriki around Madara. The way he was able to pull so much of Gyuki's yokai out of you in your short battle makes me nervous. For him to take 2 tails in a couple minutes is no joke. He is right, B. Let's just focus on taking out the Zetsu and other shinobi. Yugito said to comfort him. And if Madara or Obito breaks the barrier we just march on Iowa. Raza said more to confirm the plans than ask the question. Yes, if this barrier fails, then we take out his only remaining ally. That would be better than leaving so many enemies run wild while I hunt him. Naruto answered with a bit of remorse. But we should offer them the opportunity to surrender. Itachi asked. Why offer such mercy to people who will never see you as anything other than a monster? Because I know all too well what it feels like to have your village destroyed to almost the last man, woman and child. Naruto answered somberly, which cowed the group in front of him. Keep your men under control and fight with honor. If the Earth Daimyo and his samurai get involved, then we will have a massive fight on our hands. Were they mobilizing? Darui asked. Not that I felt. We should be able to end this before they can fully mobilize though. I am not against crippling Iwa and Earth Country, but if people surrender then we should let them. Naruto said after shaking off his sobering thoughts. That's a relief. Mei sighed out. The Earth Daimyo has 20,000 samurai and he can muster militia as well, that would make the battle exhausting. And I really don't want to kill that many people. Kakashi added while Might Guy remained stoic with a determined look on his face. This statement got a round of head nods. Earth Country may be enemies, but nobody felt like that much death would ever be something to celebrate. Alright, let's move out. Naruto said. We got your back, Ruto. Kurama said within the seal. Indeed, I believe it is time we end this. Chomei added. Decisive battle. Naruto, Itachi, Shisui and Kakashi blurred through the mountains of Iwa as the three Sharingan bearers struggled to keep up with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. They had separated from the main force at the Iwa border nearly 30 minutes ago, and Naruto could already sense the beginnings of multiple battles as he closed the distance to Madara's new hideout. As he approached the mountains that surrounded Iwagakure, Naruto saw a golden shimmer spread over the horizon and he felt the tingle of active chakra as the barrier activated. Alright, they are ahead of schedule. Now, let's get there before they have time to react. Naruto said as he clapped his hands midair and activated his golden sage mode. Kakashi watched his sensei's son, the young man that should have been his little brother, dart off into the distance. The golden glow of his cloak pulled further ahead of him, and he cursed as he noticed he was falling behind Shisui and Itachi. It was freeing to him, to move without the restrictive seals active, but it was insane trying to keep up with those three. Kakashi shook off his lazy thoughts and pushed more chakra to his lower limbs to keep up with the three insanely fast shinobi. Kakashi closed his eyes and offered a prayer to Minato, Kushina and Rin to protect Naruto during this battle. Itachi felt an unfamiliar nervousness rise in his chest as he followed his student to confront the most legendary leader of his clan. His whole life changed when the young blonde entered his life, and as time passed, he grew to appreciate this man more and more. As Iwa's mountainous terrain blurred around him, he marveled at the difference Naruto made for his family, clan, village and world. He realized that he had been following Naruto since he joined Team 8 and he was just grateful for the chance to fight alongside him. He closed his eyes and thanked Kami for this opportunity and realized that he was praying a lot more to the deity now that he knew she was real. Shisui was resolved to end this war today. When he learned that Naruto saved him, or at least changed his fate with his second chance, he didn't know what to think about such a mind-blowing revelation. To learn that in a previous timeline he was killed by Danzo before he could stop the Uchiha coup attempt was a lot to swallow. An image of Hana flickered through his mind, and he couldn't stop the smile that came to his face despite the winds of Iwa trying to blow his cheeks off. Shisui closed his eyes and offered a prayer of gratitude to Kami for this second chance and for the blonde man she used to give it to him. Up in Kami's realm, every soul was watching and waiting for the imminent fight. Kami was overwhelmed as prayer requests poured in and she chuckled when she processed Itachi and Shisui's prayer. She spread her senses around her realm and giggled as the Uzumaki and Senju clans were talking animatedly while watching their progeny march fearlessly to battle Madara. She sighed when she sensed every soul from Iwa hoping for his failure. She shook her head when she heard them saying that if anyone could kill the demon's son, then it would be Madara. Why did the dead even bring their grudges to her realm? Kushina was watching on while holding Minato's hand. She knew this would be a tough fight and she was watching the split screens that contained the battles of the allied shinobi against the remains of Iwa, Aim and White Zetsu. Evidently, the Iwa forces were alerted to many White Zetsu suddenly dying in Suna's desert and they were ready for an attack. She sighed as the paperwork started appearing on her desk as the first casualties of the battle were sent to Kami's realm. Minato marveled as he watched an unprecedented feat of Fuinjutsu take place. Imagine trying to encompass a whole nation in a barrier. A barrier that was powered by 800 conduit seals and 400 shinobis while being combined with natural energy. It made him swell with pride as he watched his village, and his son's allies, fight. It filled him pride to watch his son march forward to confront the most feared enemy of all time. He literally couldn't be prouder of his son. Shinigami and Yami were seated next to their mother as they prepared for the influx of souls. This was the first time in a long time that Their mother had called them for anything. They watched on in amazement as they watched the mortal armies clash, which was nothing unusual in and of itself. What amazed them was watching four villages, that were embroiled in war and rivalry for the past century, work together around their mother's chosen. You know, sister, this almost makes all of the paperwork worth it. Yami said as she watched the battles on the big screen while sipping some scotch. Almost. The Shinigami grunted. I am still mad that mother took all of my glory. That Sealon, her champion, used to be mine. The pouty tone of the goddess of death made Yami laugh. Ah, quit pouting and give it a rest, Shin. Yami said dismissively. You have been crying over that for the past 14 years. What don't you get? If mother didn't tamper with things, then you never would have gotten another soul. Without souls and mortals, we would have faded. Get over yourself. The Shinigami scoffed and crossed her arms under her bust while muttering, she could have done that without changing my seal and claiming my champion. He was supposed to be mine after his first death. Yami burst out in laughter. Oh, that is what this is about. Your mad mother has claimed a mortal you were interested in. Kami's head snapped towards her two daughters. Well, Shin, too bad. You should have told me before I did all of this. That being said, you can find another. He is mine now. The test run is going that well? Yami asked with an eyebrow raised. Kami blushed and nodded and the Shinigami humphed. Yes, I knew it would and I believe he has decided to accept it. Kushina appeared and glommed onto Kami. Yay. To think, I get to be the mother-in-law to the goddess of creation. Does that mean I get a cool job like Shin-chan or Yami-chan? Kami patted Kushina on the head. I think I could do that for you, Shina. Is being my secretary not good enough? Kushina put on a pouty face, which made Kami chuckle. We can talk about it another time. The main attraction is about to start. Madara felt the arrival of Naruto and a couple others. He felt chakra shimmer over a wide area, and he looked to Obito. Go outside and take a look. While I deal with the Senju boy, go get me the other Jinchuriki and their Biju. Obito nodded. As you wish, Lord Madara. Obito activated his Ms and tried to travel through his pocket dimension. Madara looked at him like he was some sort of fool when Obito remained standing still in the mountainous chamber. The legendary Uchiha's scowl deepened when Obito shifted, and he looked like some sort of constipated fool. What are you doing? Madara growled with his arms crossed in front of his chest. I can't use my Kamui, Obito said nervously. Madara closed his eyes and pulled on the natural energy that he had become more familiar with over the months. That damned child, Madara hissed before continuing, we are in some sort of barrier and, Madara's eyes widened to comical proportions, which was extremely unusual for the Sharingan Rinnegan wielder. It covers the whole country. Obito's eye widened under his mask, and he didn't know what to say about that. That was simply impossible. So, what do we do? Without Kamui I am at a severe disadvantage. Madara scoffed, we dance. We have no other choice. They are here. The chest of Madara's Susanoo flared to life and encompassed himself and Obito. It was then that the mountain rumbled violently before three gigantic earth dragons tore through the chamber and crashed into the incomplete Susanoo of Madara. After the smoke cleared, two Uchiha stared off against Naruto, Itachi, Shisui and Kakashi. It was Kakashi that spoke first while Madara and Naruto had a glaring contest. Obito, why? Why didn't you come back to the village? Why did you kill Sensei? Kakashi is broken-hearted, no longer able to maintain his composure in front of his old friend. Obito scoffed as he stood next to his master, back to the village. After you broke your promise to me. Not only did you break your promise, but you were the one that killed Rin. Obito's tone raised to a shout and tension rippled in the air between the Sharingan brothers. Before Kakashi could reply, Madara scoffed. You two, if you are going to have a little reunion, take it somewhere else. This is a battlefield. Yes, Lord Madara. Obito said obediently with a small bow of the head. Fine by me. Itachi said before nodding his head to the side. Shall we go? Madara said petulantly and impatiently. I don't want you to spoil my dance again. As the four shinobi vanished and went away off to have their conversation in battle, Naruto finally spoke to Madara. Why? Why are you so persistent on this that you would plan your resurrection? Why not just enjoy your time in the pure world with your old rival? Madara cocked his head. Pure world. There is nothing after this life, Child, there is only darkness. Naruto shook his head. Nope. You're wrong. He used a teasing tone to incense Madara. The Uchiha man scoffed. And how would you know? Naruto chuckled devilishly as he adopted his pranking look on his face. How about if you knock me on my back, I will tell you. Madara cracked his knuckles. Very well, let us dance. Madara held up his hand as Naruto got into a fighting stance. Our big jutsus are fun, but we have yet to have a good old-fashioned fight. If this is to be my last fight with you, I can accept that. I will not try to flee, and I agree that either you or I will be the victor today. However, if I accept those conditions, then I want a true battle. I want a true dance. Naruto wanted to scoff and simply end the fool. He wanted to refute the childish claim, but he remembered how battle-crazed and childish Madara was the last time around. If he could get him to willingly enter a fight to the death, then that is the best-case scenario. Naruto sighed and settled with a simple nod. Very well, Madara, I will give you your dance. You are not against a good country swing, are you? Naruto asked. Madara cocked his head to the side, and he was about to ask what a country swing was, but he was forced to parry a punch from the blonde. Madara's eyes widened and his right Sharingan shifted into his Rinnegan. Even parrying the punch, Madara felt the weight behind it as the golden hand of Naruto whizzed past his face. Madara leaned back and backflipped and tried to catch Naruto with a kick. Naruto absorbed the blow and an intense taijutsu battle began. The Uchiha Sage and Senju Uzumaki Sage clashed in high-speed taijutsu combat that was filled with earth-shattering kicks and punches fast enough to create wind funnels. The two were evenly matched as they warmed up against one another. Naruto couldn't stop the battle mania from fixing a smile on his face, and he couldn't repress the begrudging respect for the combat prowess of his opponent. If the crazed smile on Madara's face was anything to go by, then Naruto believed he was feeling the same thing. As the two disappeared in blurs of gold and black, the mountains of the area became a battleground. As they each scaled up their chakra and increased the potency of the natural energy in their bodies, the devastation escalated. After 10 minutes, Naruto was able to land a decisive blow to Madara's face, but he paid for it by taking a mule kick that sent him flying into the base of a mountain. As Naruto pulled himself out of the crater, Naruto saw Madara rubbing his cheek with a victorious grin on his face. I put you on your back. Madara said proudly. Now, tell me what you know of the pure world and how you know it. Naruto shrugged and ignored the cautions from Kurama and Chome. Because this isn't my first rodeo. I have fought you before, I have been through a variation of this dance before. Madara blinked, and then blinked again, when he finally scoffed, and you expect me to believe that? You are in Sage mode, aren't you? Even if it is that weak, that is definitely Sage mode, and you should be able to sense if I were lying. Naruto answered blandly and shook out his wrists. Stop fucking around, Naruto. Kurama growled loudly. Hi. Naruto replied internally. Ruto. Brother is right. This is not a man to mess around with. Chome screeched. Madara had used the distraction to mull over his thoughts. So, then what happened last time? I answered the one promised question. Round 2. Naruto said with a cheeky smile. Madara nodded and let the fanatical grin spread across his face once more. This time, I choose to waltz. Madara unsealed a sickle and a katana out of his wrists. Naruto chuckled manically before he unsealed Benihime and Dragon's Roar and encased them in wind chakra. Very well, I can handle 3/4 timing. Let's dance. Naruto took the initiative this time and blurred forward with his blades held out to either side. He started with a side slash from the right that was blocked by the hilt of Madara's sickle. Before Madara could counter that block, his katana was forced to block a triplicate of slashes and stabs from Dragon's Roar. The first blood of the Kenjutsu battle was had by Naruto, but the shallow wound to Madara was already sizzling shut by the time that the next clash of blades sounded. The Kenjutsu fight continued to frustrate Madara as he had several slashes and tears in his cloak and his armor was beginning to look shabby as sharp wind slashes tore through it. He was frustrated that his Rinnegan and Sharingan were not enough to keep up with the blinding speed of the Senju boy. It was unbelievable to him that he was being outpaced this much and the boy wasn't even serious yet. It frustrated Madara to no end that his blades were losing each clash, despite the elemental advantage that Madara had over Naruto's wind blades. After another block, Madara saw that the wind covering Naruto's blades was saturated with water and the wind kept the water cool, which negated his flame-covered blades. That revelation was short-lived as Madara was forced to block a series of spinning slashes that escalated into thrusts. Madara was once again on the defensive as he relied on the predictive aspect of the Sharingan to defend himself against the blonde boy. Madara was no longer grinning as he took a deeper wound to his right leg, and he let out a roar of frustration as he used his Rinnegan to get the advantage in the Kenjutsu aspect of the fight. Naruto's eyes widened because his two blades were locked with Madara's once more when 8 blade-like appendages sprouted out of Madara's back and chest. Naruto was able to jump back, but one of the blades had stabbed him through the abdomen and caused a gush of blood before the wound healed shut. As he found his new footing, he was forced onto the defensive as Naruto now had to fight against 10 blades as opposed to 2. It took a shout of frustration from Kurama for the blonde knucklehead to realize that he could counter with his Mokuden chains. Madara had broken the rules first, after all. Madara scowled as the damnable chains made their appearance once more. With ninjutsu being used freely now, the gloves were off, and the true battle was starting. Madara opened with a Shinra Tensai that started to throw Naruto away when one of the ceiling chains wrapped around his ankle. Mid-air, Naruto was able to anchor 2 more chains in the ground and he spun Madara into the air before the Mokuden chain slammed him into the ground by his ankle on the opposite side of Naruto from where he began. Madara was confused and frustrated by the fact that the Preta path couldn't absorb the chakra chains efficiently. It was infuriating to the Uchiha who couldn't understand why the chakra-absorbing effects of the Preta path couldn't absorb constructs made of pure chakra. Naruto felt the small drain as chakra clashed against chakra, but he was more than able to sustain the minimal chakra drain from the overall clash. Madara hopped back to his feet and weaved through hand signs before blowing out a fire-style majestic flame destroyer jutsu. As the intense wave of flame impacted on the mountain's face and spread towards Naruto, he countered with a wood wall to halt the flame's advance and then added a water-style water colliding wave. The water poured over the breakneck of the wood wall and doused the intense flames, which resulted in the area being encompassed in chakra-dense steam. The two sages ignored the steam and clashed violent jutsu against violent jutsu. They lost track of time, space and surroundings as the only thing that mattered was besting the opponent. The black flames of Amaterasu burned terrible swaths of black flames into the faces of mountains. Wooden trees were blown away by waves of gravity. Earth, water and wood dragons fought against fire dragons that burned hotter than Yami's hellscape. Lightning jutsus crashed into wooden walls with violent roars as the battle continued to escalate. The air became so saturated with chakra that the environment shifted around the two into an emerging chakra storm. Black clouds formed high in the skies, lightning flashed and rain began to fall as the chakra in the air swirled into a storm of epic proportions. The lightning jutsus of Madara charged the atmosphere and tore into the earth that Naruto erected to counter. Fire continued to superheat torrents of water that formed out of Naruto's own body or the free water vapor in the air. In Iowa, the warning sirens were blaring as the mountains around their precious village were being reduced to rubble one by one. The storms that erupted out of nowhere were further inspiration for the genin of Iowa to hop to their tasks. They overcame their fears and focused on evacuating their citizens to the underground shelters as the civilians gawked at the bouts of flames, flashes of lightning, gales of wind, chunks of earth and torrents of water erupting in the surrounding mountains. The universal thought of Iowa's civilians was, there is no way human beings could do such a thing. The Chunin guarding the walls were not censors, they were pretty rare in Iowa, after all. That being said, each of them could feel the massive swell of chakra that preceded each gigantic jutsu. The amount of fire used by Madara caused the already hot temperature of Earth Country get to an uncomfortable point before the rainstorm formed and provided a sweet release. The flashes of jutsus of two intense fights continued flickering through the darkening skies and provided a unique show for the Chunin guards. Madara was frustrated as he called upon the power sealed in him. He focused it like he saw Naruto do and he was able to wrap the intense yokai around his body in a more tempered manner. It wasn't as clear and distinct as Naruto's chakra cloak, but it formed into a long sage cloak over Madara, and it was a dense black. It wasn't as pure as the old Madara's Jubi cloak, but it was still threatening to Naruto. "You yahoos ready in there?" Naruto thought. "You are having way too much fun with this." Kurama deadpanned. "I'm ready, Ruto." Chomei chittered excitedly, it has been quite fun to watch. Kurama scoffed, yeah, the idiot only gets thrown around by the gravity jutsu 100 times. Oh well, at least I don't have to focus on healing his broken body anymore. Naruto laughed out loud as he flared into Golden Yokai Sage mode before thinking back, you haven't had to focus on healing me for years. It is all Sage mode. Plus, this is probably the last time I will get a fight on this level. He isn't even trying to run away. No shit, Kurama deadpanned, he is completely lost to the battle mania. He is basically acting on instinct at this point. Yeah, it is kinda scary how much of a battle genius he is. Naruto admitted. Brat, you are the same way. Kurama deadpanned once more and shook his head despondently. Chomei chuckled, you can say that again. Now, Ruto, focus. Yes ma'am. Naruto thought and projected the image of a mock salute. With the power of the Biju and Geto Mazo, Madara powered up his jutsu and got ready to throw something new at Naruto. After forcing the kid to defend from another wave of flame, Madara held both hands out in front of him and formed 3 mini Biju bombs. As Naruto was recovering from yet another wide-scale fire attack, his eyes widened to comical proportions when he saw Madara holding 3 Bijudama in his hands. Naruto immediately weaved through hand signs before placing both hands on the ground as the Bijudama began soaring towards him at high speeds. He summoned the 5 Rashomon gates to absorb the impact and then he added in 2 V-shaped wooden barriers to disperse the insane pressure and flames of the explosions. As Naruto recovered, he felt a tingle in his senses, but it was unfamiliar, yet familiar at the same time. Suddenly, Naruto was punched hard in the face by an invisible foe, and he was hit mid-flight by yet another invisible foe. Kurama and Naruto came to the same realization simultaneously as the memories of his previous fight with Madara surfaced. He clicked his teeth and 4 wood clones sprouted out of his back glowing in the GYSM and they each darted at their invisible opponents. Kami dammit, Limbo and all of the Rinnegan's other BS abilities were really cheating. Naruto almost instantly healed the damage done by the Limbo clones and he sensed that his wood clones were able to deal with them. Naruto felt Madara's chakra and yokai swell and he knew something big was coming. Then, 3 familiar signatures registered in his brain as their roars echoed around the mountains of Iwa. Fuck. Naruto thought before he shook off his initial reaction and thought to Q, you ready for that new jutsu, friend? Kurama had been growing frustrated with the slow ramp-up of the battle so far. Sure, he knew that Naruto could easily handle the drawn-out fight and he admitted that his partner likely had far better stamina than the reincarnated Uchiha. Upon feeling his brethren let loose from the Geto Mazo, Kurama's anger had instantly flared, and Chomei wasn't much different. When he heard Naruto's question, he smirked devilishly and was ready to take the kid gloves off. Hell yeah. Kurama snarled through the mind link, it is high past time to free my brethren and put this bastard back in the dirt. Oh, let's do it. Chomei chittered excitedly. Naruto closed his eyes and clapped his hands together before beginning his hand signs. Madara panted from the exertion of releasing 3 Biju from the Geto Mazo. He watched the Biju appear with the chakra rods linked to purplish-black chains that encompassed the base of their necks. He closed his eyes to calm his breathing and steady his chakra coils. He cursed Obito for resurrecting him prematurely because this body was clearly not at the level he expected and the drain of such an invigorating battle could be felt. Madara's eyes snapped open when he sensed the massive upsurge in chakra from the Senju boy. It dwarfed anything he had used thus far and from the feeling it surpassed the combined chakra of the 3 Biju he just summoned, which was stunning to Madara. However, with his Rinnegan open, he couldn't deny the fact that it was happening. To his Rinnegan it was like looking at a miniature chakra sun before Madara's jaw dropped when the jutsu sprang to life. Battle at the border, Eastern Battle. Tamari was bored as she steamed a group of 100 white zetsu and watched as the superheated water vapor turned the plant creatures into melted piles of goo. She was standing at the front of her formation, and she felt the gawking gazes of the men and women behind her. She looked off into the distance where she could feel her little brother's chakra swell and wondered what had gotten him so riled up. Before she could go and check, a company of Iwa shinobi appeared behind a formation of white zetsu that had just risen out of the ground. They just don't know when to give up. Hikari said despondently. She had watched the decimation of the zetsu and felt nothing, but she had grown nauseous when she saw the original border guard killed. She wasn't looking forward to seeing even more loss of life. Temari squinted as she looked at the leader of the formation and then she clicked her teeth in anger. That little bitch doesn't know when to quit. Who is she? Hikari asked while the allied forces listened in. Kuretsuchi, daughter of the Tsuchikage. She was there at the Chunin exams, remember? Temari answered blandly while never removing her eyes from the battlefield. Hikari snapped her fingers. Oh yeah, her. The girl Ruto captured before you, well, died in Ruto, well, went crazy. Yeah, that one. Temari said in a frigid tone. Relax, my girl. Kokuo soothed through Temari's mind link. Are you going to give her a chance to surrender? Hell no, Temari answered instantly. This bitch had 2 chances. 3 strikes and she is out. Kokuo sighed sadly. Very well, I am with you. Temari turned and addressed her forces. We have an enemy company and a couple hundred white Zetsu. You are to remain in your teams of 3 at all times. Go after my jutsu fades and Hikari casts the golden pollination. Hi. The formation of 50 shinobi shouted behind her while Hikari nodded resolutely. Without further warning, turquoise-colored chakra surrounded Temari, and she summoned Kamidachi, her personal summons. Without a further word, she nodded to the weasel before she opened her primary battle fan all the way. The potent wind chakra merged with Kokuo's yokai and channeled through the seals on her battle fan. She began her dance as Kamidachi focused on syncing his chakra with hers and joined her dance. Kuretsuchi saw the lover of the blonde demon and she saw the chakra cloak that erupted around her. She had issued orders to prepare defensive jutsu and the white Zetsus had already burrowed into the ground to seek shelter. Nothing could have prepared them for the triplicate of 800-foot-wide twisters that hissed with steaming chakra that closed the distance to her formation in mere seconds. The potent winds clashed with earthen barriers and shredded them mercilessly, which allowed the steam chakra to penetrate the defenses and wreak havoc on 40 or so Iwa shinobi. As the twisters faded, the allied forces charged forward with a battle cry and golden flowers erupted from the ground and released a fine, golden pollen. As the pollen hit the ground, the white Zetsu were forced out of their hiding spots and they had unnatural growths all over their bodies. It looked like the white creatures were suffering from rapid onset cancer as their bodies bulged in unnatural ways. The idea behind this jutsu that Naruto created was to disable the transformation of the white Zetsu into allied forces. The golden pollen reacted with Hashirama's cells and caused a reaction to the potent natural energy embedded in the jutsu. Temari led her allies across the steaming battlefield, and she sprinted straight for Kuretsuchi. Naruto wouldn't be happy that she was being motivated by revenge, but Temari felt like she had a score to settle with this girl. As she sealed her battle fan and pulled out her dual sensu fans, she steeled her nerves and prepared to give Kuretsuchi her final lesson. Temari leapt into the air over a lava dome that was in good shape, and she formed 2 wind blades on the edges of her sensu fans. Kuretsuchi felt the jutsu end and she looked at the 20 shinobi that were able to shelter within her lava dome. No wind jutsu would be enough to penetrate her lava defenses, and as she dropped the lava dome, she felt the arrival of the enemy forces. She ordered her forces to scatter and engage before she looked up and saw 2 translucent wind blades descending rapidly upon her. She funneled chakra to her mouth and spat out 2 lava balls to intercept the wind blades. Temari saw the counter and didn't let it disrupt her battle plan. She encased her fans in steam chakra and fell upon Kuretsuchi with a battle cry. Her fans sliced down and through Kuretsuchi's kunai before they tore 2 vertical slashes into her uniform. Temari enjoyed the pained screams of the girl and she instantly moved to continue her assault. She begrudgingly admitted that Kuretsuchi was skilled as she immediately encased her kunai in a lava chakra, which equalized the subsequent clashes against her fans. Shikamaru, Choji and Ino were back together again, and they were attached to Temari's platoon. Shikamaru used Choji in an Earth-style, human boulder yo-yo, to flatten the formation of Zetsu. He processed Temari jumping over the white Zetsu and whispered, "Troublesome," under his breath when he saw the overzealous spouse of the most troublesome blonde ever. He turned to Ino and issued orders. "Ino, we need to get through the Zetsu and get to Temari. She is in there alone." Shikamaru shouted over the roar of the battle. Ino just sliced through 2 white Zetsu white chakra scalpels that were more like chakra sabers since they were 3 feet long. "She will be fine. Just make sure these plant fuckers can't show up behind us." Tamari was forced to disengage Kuretsuchi as 8 Iwa shinobi surrounded her to give the Iwa princess a breather. Unfortunately, Temari's wind and steam jutsu were truly devastating when Tamari didn't need to hold back. That was why she jumped ahead of her formation and the volley of wind blades that began shredding the Iwa forces validated her reasoning. As an Iwa man that looked like he should have been retired already was cut in half, Tamari once again launched herself at Kuretsuchi. Kuretsuchi panted from her exchange with Tamari, but she steadied her chakra and allowed her medic to heal the 2 wounds running down her front chest. She saw that she didn't have much time and she channeled as much chakra as she could into her next jutsu. After she finished her hand seals, she placed her hands on the ground, and it caused the whole battlefield to shake. Shikamaru's eyes widened to saucers when he saw a massive volcano, nearly 500 feet in diameter, erupt and spew lava into the formation of allied forces. He was then relieved as Choji and another Akamichi used an earth jutsu to absorb the initial volley of lava. Then, the 2 squads of Kiri shinobi were able to launch a massive wave of water at the top of the volcano, which caused an eruption of steam around the battlefield. Shikamaru was grateful for the storm and rain that had formed overhead because that empowered his Kiri allies. Tamari smirked devilishly when she saw the steam encompassing the battlefield and she synced her chakra with Kokuo's yokai before spreading it through the steam. Once that was done, she worked with Kamidachi to create a heavy downdraft that blew the steam away from her allies and into the Iwa and Zetsu ranks. She reveled in the screams of her opponents as the surprise steam jutsu crippled them. She then darted toward where she felt Kuretsuchi. Kuretsuchi panted from the strain of her best jutsu and the subsequent strain of having to surround herself in yet another lava dome. It was stressing to her that her opponents were able to launch successive high-level jutsu one after another at her men. She shook off her thoughts as she felt the wind die down around her and she began releasing her lava dome when she felt pain lance through her chest and both arms. She was able to look down and process both of her arms falling off before her body began sliding off of her lower half as her world went black. Tamari took a brief moment to savor the defeat of the lava bitch before she joined her allies in finishing off the remaining Zetsu and Iwa shinobi. It took less than 5 minutes after killing Kuretsuchi to clean up the battlefield and she ordered her men to tend to the wounded. As she looked around, she was sad to see at least 5 of her allies dead and she winced when she saw the burns on the 2 Akamichi that had taken the brunt of the lava and steam attacks. She walked over to the group of injured that were being tended to by the medics. "Sorry about that, Choji. Thanks for protecting our guys from that jutsu." Choji offered a sincere smile and waved her off, as Akamichi are tough. "That lava hurt and your steam didn't feel much better, but we will be fine." The other Akamichi looked up and offered the same sincere, chubby-cheeked smile to back up his clan heir. "You troublesome woman, you couldn't just use a katana or something," Shikamaru drawled. Tamari scoffed, "I could, but that is Ruto's thing." "She is right, Shika," Hikari said cheerfully joining the conversation. "Her sensu fans are just as, if not more, dangerous than Brother's sword." Ino wrapped an arm over Temari's shoulder. "Yeah, but Ruto doesn't devastate whole battlefields when he swings his swords. I think the battlefield devastation was the point," Choji said while chuckling. "It made our job easier, so no harm no foul." "Thanks, Choji. That was why you are my favorite from Team 10. Tamari said playfully, which earned a pout from Ino. Before the blonde mind walker could counter, everyone froze as they heard the roar of the 3 released Biju. Tamari was instantly notified by Kokuo about what happened, but that was nothing compared to what she saw next. Despite being 50 or so miles away, she was still able to see a massive wooden construct erect itself in the distant mountains. She closed her eyes and prayed while the allied forces around her were each struggling to break themselves out of their shock. At the beginning of the battle, Gaara and Raza were forced to separate from Tamari when one of their worst-case scenarios became reality. They knew that their front was responsible for the battles that would be nearest the Earth capital. When they entered Earth country, scouts reported that the samurai were mobilizing from the capital and Gaara immediately set out with his father to stall or confront the samurai. As the sand and golden clouds came to a stop over the Earth capital, Gaara looked down on thousands of samurai that were in formation and preparing to depart the capital's gates. "Father, Naruto didn't want us to kill them unless absolutely necessary," Gaara said in his usual monotone, despite the excited protestations of the Shukaku, who wanted to release havoc. Then perhaps we should give them a demonstration of what it would mean to leave the safety of those gates. Raza said with a proud smirk on his face. Shukaku howled now in Gaara's mind, and Raza chuckled as he saw the obvious signs of his son having an internal conversation. Very well, father. I will sync with Shukaku and plug the gates. You can send in a shadow clone to negotiate. Have fun, son. Do not overextend yourself, Raza said as his golden cloud glided towards the city. Gaara closed his eyes and absorbed the sand that was below his feet. As he fell through the skies, he synchronized with Shukaku and a titanic tanuki formed in the air before crashing to the ground in a thunderous roar accompanied by an earthquake. Before the samurai could react, tidal waves of sand erupted from the dry ground around the Earth capital and crashed into the high walls surrounding the city and plugged the gates. With that done, Gaara let Shukaku have some fun and went to spend some quality time with his mother within the seal. Shukaku restrained himself as he watched Raza send repeat shadow clones into the samurai formations to negotiate with them. The slightly crazy tanuki cackled loudly when it saw Raza erect a golden barrier to stop the volleys of arrows from the long bows. His cackling intensified when he saw Raza form golden javelins that he held suspended in the air above the samurai formations. He whined a bit when the samurai's resistance stopped, and he saw the negotiations taking place. Shukaku was never one to let a good thing go to waste though, so he began forming giant sand sculptures while Raza was negotiating. This reignited his cackling when he heard the frustrated shouts of the samurai on the walls. Their stupid honor stopped them from enjoying Shukaku's art. The tanuki could admit that he was being a little crass, but the tiny humans should just be glad he wasn't claiming their blood with his sand. With a final touch, the newest sand statue on the road to the Earth capital was finished, and this earned the loudest roar of anger yet. The glorious sand statue of the Tsuchikage and Earth daimyo taking sand javelins in the ass would remain forever, as true art should. Or at least until the samurai could destroy it, but Shukaku considered that semantics. Shukaku's joy was disrupted when he felt the flare of yokai from Iwagakore's direction. He growled loudly and wanted to run to reinforce Naruto, but Gaara retook control and just continued to look off in that direction. When the giant wood construct appeared in the skyline over the Iwa Mountains, Gaara shook his head. His brother never did know the definition of restraint. Battle of the Uchihas. Kakashi trailed behind Obito as he traversed through the mountains of Iwa away from the site of a battle that was already starting between Madara and Naruto. He was trapped in his own thoughts and couldn't find his resolve. On one hand, he wanted to fight for his friend and save him from the darkness. On the other, he knew that his friend was most likely beyond saving, and it was his friend that had plunged the world into darkness and chaos. Thus, Kakashi trailed behind with an empty look on his face hidden behind his half-mask until Obito came to a halt on a mountain about 5 miles to the other side of Iwa. Before the conversation could begin, Kitsuchi and 2 squads of golem appeared behind Obito, and they were accompanied by 50 white Zetsu. This caused the trio to pause and reevaluate the situation. Please let me deal with Obito, Kakashi said quietly. Itachi looked unsure towards his old Anbu captain. Are you sure you can do what needs to be done? Kakashi visibly winced. I don't know, but I need a chance to sort it out. Shisui placed a comforting hand on Itachi's shoulder. Let him go, cuz he will find his way. We have a cage and a bunch of nobodies to clean up. Itachi sighed, but a moment later his visage hardened and his Sharingan flared to life. Kitsuchi is mine. I have to repay the favor for what he did to my father and clan. Shisui shrugged and cracked his knuckles. That means I get the chumps. Very well. His voice barely contained his excitement as he removed the dual kodachis that were in A.X. guard on his back. Obito never took his lone visible eye away from Kakashi. He had buried his past so deep that it may as well no longer exist, but looking at the half-masked face dredged up memories of past that forced Obito to push them down with vigor. As the battle began, Obito dashed forward with a sickle and katana in much the same way Madara did. He was trained by the legend, after all, and it showed in his fighting style. Kakashi snapped out of his musings when he was forced to deal with Obito's first attack. He withdrew 2 kunai and coated them in lightning chakra. The 2 owners of the same set of Sharingan began an intense duel that darted in between the screams and flying blood from the battles around them. The Then, they broke into the fight from canon that took place in Obito's Kamui because that fight was a masterful piece of choreography and a perfect blend of past and present clashing against one another. As Kakashi laid on the ground with a hole in his gut next to his one-time friend, he looked into the darkening sky and enjoyed the soft patter of the rain falling on his face. He was struggling to breathe from the strain of the battle and the hole in his gullet. As the blood trickled out of the wound and mixed with the rain, Kakashi looked over and saw Obito lying in a similar situation, but there was a Chidori hole that took out his right lung. "I am so sorry, Obito," Kakashi said quietly as the battles continued to rage around them. The tears mixed with the rain and saturated the mask that always hid Kakashi's face. Obito grunted and spat out some blood before he turned his head to look at Kakashi. "That was, a lifetime ago. That life you remember ended when Rin died to your Chidori." Kakashi closed his eyes in remorse and began to sob, which turned into a coughing fit due to his wound. "It wasn't as the single greatest regret of my life. I know." Obito cut him off in a firm tone. "I was there that day, you know. It was after Madara healed me and I saw you impale Rin with your Chidori." Kakashi opened his eyes to see the pained look on the half-crushed face of Obito. He also saw the hole in his chest beginning to heal. "I want you to know, I didn't do it intentionally. I was trying to fight, and Rin threw herself." "I know." Obito cut him off once more. "That is why I committed to Madara's plan. It was the only way I would ever get to spend a lifetime with Rin." This statement earned a sad silence from the two wounded teammates. Shunshin no Shisui blurred around the battlefield in flashes of steel from his dual kodachis. As On-Man fell with an after-image standing over him, the next one was already dying. The teleporting Uchiha decimated the accompanying shinobi and Zetsu alike. All of his speed training with Naruto and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan he got from Makoto made him all the more deadly. As the final Iwa shinobi fell, 50 or so after images finally faded out of existence and Shisui turned to watch Itachi finish his fight with the Tsuchikage. Itachi released his Susanoo and let out a sigh as he watched the soulless body of Kitsuchi crumble to the ground unceremoniously in a pile of ash. With a pulse of chakra from his eyes, the black flames of Amaterasu fizzled out. He looked around the battlefield and saw that Shisui was waiting for him with his arms crossed. Itachi let out an "HN" and clicked his teeth as he walked over to his cousin. Shisui was waiting with a shit-eating grin on his face as Itachi approached. "Well, cuz, I think you are getting rusty. I dealt with 2 squads and 50 plebs before you were able to finish off a mere cage." Shisui could no longer hold back his chuckles. "HN, he had some decent defenses," Itachi said petulantly before turning to look for Kakashi. He saw the downed forms and nodded with his head to Shisui, who simply nodded in acknowledgement. Kakashi felt the 2 Uchiha warriors approaching, and he was glad for the backup. He knew that Obito would heal faster than himself. "Look, Obito, I will go with you." At Obito's grunt, Kakashi continued. "I will go with you to the pure world." "No." Obito cut him off for the 3rd time, but his tone was softer as he too felt the 2 approaching and he knew his eyes could no longer save him. "I don't want you to steal Rin from me again. Live this life. Find happiness, for me and for Rin." Tears fell freely from Kakashi's eyes, and the rain turned to a downpour as the sounds from Naruto's fight continued to escalate. Obito continued before Kakashi could respond. "I forgive you, Kakashi. Let it go." Itachi approached and saw the wound in Obito's chest regenerating and he moved quickly to apply a chakra lock seal on the downed Uchiha missing nin. Itachi was surprised when Kakashi struggled to a knee and he tried to stop him, but the man was able to shove his wrist away and Itachi stopped when he saw the resolved look on his elite Jonin's face. Kakashi took a knee over Obito. "Then I will send you to her, give her a hug for me." Kakashi whispered softly and affectionately. Obito nodded with a natural smile on his lips. "Thank you, Kakashi." Obito closed his eyes and barely felt the lightning-encased blow to the heart that sent him to the afterlife. Shisui dropped to Kakashi's side, who had crumpled to the ground once more. He took a first aid seal out of his pouch and placed it over the front and back of Kakashi's wound. As the tags took Shisui's chakra and converted it to healing chakra, Shisui looked down at the pained face of Kakashi. No words were necessary as the 3 understood the gravity of what just passed. That peaceful sentiment was disrupted when a massive flare of yokai preceded roars from 3 Biju. "We may need to go and back him up." Kakashi said as he rose onto his elbow. No, Itachi said firmly. We would only get in the way during such a fight. We will remain on standby. As Itachi finished that sentence, a massive wooden construct that defied logic rose into the skyline above Iwa. All three forgot to breathe as the stunned silence was suffused with the sound of mountains crumbling and chakra clashing against chakra. Naruto vs Madara, the real fight. Let's go, Naruto. Kurama shouted excitedly through the mind link as his chakra took form and continued to expand. On the outside, Naruto was rapidly raising into the air on a wooden platform that was fixed atop of a giant visage of Kurama that was fixed into a meditative position in place of a Buddha statue. Behind the wooden Kurama, 1,000 tails splayed out behind the kitsune, and each tail was equal to one of the true 1,000 hands of the original jutsu. As the wooden construct continued into the skyline above Iwa, Naruto cackled loudly as he was finally able to use his trump card. His cackling echoed across the mountain range as he saw the stunned look on Madara's face. Madara shook off his shock and fatigue before he entered into his perfect Susanoo complete with sage markings. He ordered the three Biju to attack in unison as he took to the skies above the mountain range. He watched in amazement as four tails lashed out and he was able to maneuver his Susanoo to dodge the tail meant for him. He growled in frustration when Isobu's spinning charge was halted and the giant turtle was sent crashing into a nearby mountain. The lava monkey was charging as it hurled giant balls of lava towards the wooden construct, but the monkey was sent flying by one of the tails as the left hand of the kitsune smacked the lava balls out of the air. Son Goku was sent tumbling back the way he came and halted unceremoniously as the base of a mountain that interrupted his tumble. The monkey shook off its disorientation and prepared to charge once more. The six-tailed slug, Seiken, crawled its way towards the wooden statue, leaving a trail of acid in its wake, and let loose massive volleys of acid that began disintegrating the wooden tail that smacked into Seiken milliseconds later. The wet-sounding smack echoed across the mountains as the wood tail passed through the slug Biju and sent acid spraying all over the place. Seiken was forced to shake off the disorientation that accompanied the reformation of her body and she prepared to continue the fight. As Naruto watched the tail's opening assault, he blurred through hand signs and decided to incapacitate the Biju one by one. He finished his hand seals and 10 massive, wooden torii gates crashed down onto Isobu and immobilized it completely. Naruto left a wood clone in his place to maneuver the construct as he used Shunshin to appear on the head of the immobilized Biju. He gave a compassionate look into the single eye of the turtle Biju before he blurred down to the neck of the creature where the massive chakra rod was embedded. Naruto formed golden hands out of his yokai cloak and with a massive heave he was able to remove the chakra rod. In that moment, he was sent to the mindscape of Isobu and he exchanged fist bumps with the Biju. The Biju's eyes widened when he got a message and memories from Kurama. Naruto nodded when he received a piece of Isobu's chakra. When the time comes, he would willingly do his part. As Naruto removed the chakra rod, he was forced to dodge an attack of lava and acid from the two remaining Biju. He flashed to his wood clone in a golden flash and watched the form of Isobu retreat back into Madara's Susanoo. One down, he thought before he used the statue to block a titanic fireball of Amaterasu flames from Madara's Susanoo. 10 tails of the statue formed a wall that intercepted the black flames before the tails separated themselves from the kitsune statue and fell into a valley in between two mountains. The valley roared as the black flames of Amaterasu consumed everything they fell upon. The two joint hands of the kitsune statue glowed as they moved through slow and deliberate hand signs. As the tails continued to halt the assaults of Madara's Susanoo and the two Biju, the gigantic kitsune statue halted its movements and glowed brilliantly. Then, the earth shook violently as 10 massive trees erupted from the ground and shredded the mountains they came from. The 10 great trees soared into the skies with their tips in the form of dragon heads above thick canopies. The effects of a super-sized, Hokage-style Elder Jutsu, 10th Edict of Enlightenment, were instantaneous as the charging Biju halted mid-stride and sat into reclined positions. The draining effects of the wooden trees that surrounded the Biju were obvious as thick streams of yokai flowed from the sitting Biju into the 10 great trees. Madara saw the jutsu, and knew that he needed to disrupt it. The Susanoo weaved through hand signs and formed a massive black orb in between its palms. Geto Arts, Chibaku Tensai, Madara roared out as he released the chakra black hole into the sky. This orb was about 10 times as big as the one Pain had summoned in Iron Country, and its effects were immediate, devastating and wide-scale. The shattered mountain range flew into the sky in giant chunks of earth, and the Biju were pulled in with earth and debris from the battle. The chaotic pull of gravity even had an effect on the wooden construct, but multiple tails lashed into the crust of the earth kept the great statue safe from the devastating gravitational pull. Naruto blasted off the top of the head of his thousand tails statue and jumped from rock to rock to reach the Biju in seconds. He fought against the insane gravitational pull of the artificial black hole, and he focused on his targets as his short, chaotic journey took several seconds. The golden form of Naruto shone brightly as he landed first on Saiken's neck and ripped the chakra rod that anchored it to the Geto Mazo out of its neck. He didn't even take half a second to enjoy the small victory as he collected another bit of Biju Yokai from the friendly slug. He darted higher into the air where the form of the red, giant ape was flailing helplessly in the sky as it was pulled towards the Chikabu Tensai. Another push of Naruto's chakra sent him soaring into the sky directly for the ape. He obliterated giant chunks of earth with an Odama Rasengan, and as he closed the distance, he turned the giant Rasengan into a Rasenshuriken that screeched through the air towards the black hole. The backlash of the wind blast bought Naruto a second to remove the final chakra rod from Son Goku's neck. With the final rod removed and another sliver of yokai collected, Naruto flashed back to his thousand tails statue as the fading chakra of Son Goku was pulled towards the black hole. Madara was heaving through breaths as he struggled to keep up with the massive chakra expenditure and the rapid influx of yokai combined with the overuse of his chakra. His strained chakra coils burned, and his body struggled to pay the tax, even with the soothing effects of his sage mode. Thus, he was forced to hover above his own black hole and watch as the damnable boy defied logic once more and took two more of his weapons from the battlefield. He scowled at the thought of retreat, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to survive this fight against the boy. The moment's respite let him catch his breath, and he released the Chibaku Tensai because it wasn't going to be enough to destroy that statue or the Senju boy anyways. Madara called down 10 meteors with the planetary devastation jutsu, and he let the gravitational effects fade, which released the small moon hovering over the remains of Iwa Mountains. Naruto sensed the incoming meteors, and he knew he had to deal with the massive rocks falling from the sky. Hundreds of tails lashed out and impaled the rock formed by the Chibaku Tensai that was easily the size of Iwa itself in diameter. A thunderous sound tore through the skies before rocks and chunks of earth rained down upon the landscape in the village of Iwagakure. With the greatest threat dealt with, Naruto focused and sent more tails flying into the air, and 10 massive cracks were heard as the flaming meteors were shattered by Mokuden tails that each took the heads of dragons. The superheated earth fell to the ground in small meteorites and showered over Iwagakure and its mountain range. Naruto ignored the falling rocks and lashed out a tail at Madara's retreating Susanoo. The tails formed into dragon heads and wrapped around the legs of Susanoo and dragged it back down to the remains of the mountain range. With a giant slam and a rattle of earth, the Susanoo slammed into the ground. With another slam, a wooden golem jumped on the back of the giant, blue chakra construct and sent cracks etching through the chakra armor. With the tails still wrapped around its legs, Naruto spun the Susanoo around rapidly and threw the Susanoo skidding along the ground. He winced a moment later when the massive chakra construct skidded through a better part of Iwa and tore buildings asunder. He guided his Mokuden statue forward and was able to see the devastation caused by the battle against Madara. He closed his eyes and sensed the people of Iwagakure's terror as they huddled in their underground bunkers. He took a calming breath when he felt them alive, and he took time to form a Mokuden dome around the shelters to protect them from the fallout of this battle. The seconds he used to focus on protecting the Iwa citizens cost him as Madara's Susanoo flew towards Naruto as his thousand tails lost massive chunks of wood as it was impaled by 4 swords covered in the flames of Amaterasu. Rather than retreat, Naruto ordered the statue to clasp the 4 arms of the Susanoo. Then, tails wrapped around the chakra construct and immobilized it completely. Naruto took no small amount of satisfaction as he watched Madara struggle in his grasp. With a smirk on his face, Naruto and Kurama used the left hand of the Kitsune statue to rip the armor off of the Susanoo piece by piece. As he removed the first shoulder plate, Naruto opened the dialogue. "Well, Madara, I think it is my win," he said smugly as the Uchiha legend continued to struggle. "You know nothing of peace, boy." Madara spat. This world will never know peace. Naruto belted out a laugh at that. You want to know what your plan would have done? Why don't you have Black Zetsu there tell you? He won't be able to get away anymore. The Kitsune's hand crushed the shoulder plates in its hands and absorbed the chakra that once belonged to Madara. Madara scowled as the black creature in his cloak spread across half of his body. Black Zetsu spoke, Kyuubi Jinchuriki, this is unnatural. You were not supposed to know. How do you know about Mother? Naruto laughed as he moved on to strip the chest plate of the Susanoo warrior. He saw Madara cough out blood as he suffered from the effects of chakra rapidly being taken from him. Oh, no, your mommy will never be a part of this world again. I defeated her last time, but you corrupted my friend, and he brought about the end of the world. You fools know not what you do. Madara was struggling to comprehend what the boy was saying when visions of Black Zetsu's betrayal and the fight of a previous life filled his mind. Black Zetsu shrieked in response to that, impossible. Despite the shriek of Black Zetsu, Madara was struggling to comprehend what was happening. All of the work and effort he put into his plan, all of the pain he endured, his triumph over death in defiance of the rules, it was all for nothing. He was destined to fail no matter what, and it was all for naught. Rage encompassed the pits of Madara's soul, and his body was encased in the black flames of Amaterasu. He took no small measure of enjoyment as the creature known as Black Zetsu was burnt into remnants of chakra by flames hotter than the sun. Naruto saw the black flames erupt from within the protective jewel of the Susanoo, and he was pleased to realize that he could no longer feel Black Zetsu. He noticed that the Susanoo was now much smaller as his Mokuden had absorbed the chakra that was used to construct it. The tails constrained around the shrinking chakra construct, and he knew that it was time to end this. Naruto used the left hand of the Kitsune to pluck the jewel off the Susanoo's forehead. As the jewel was removed, the chakra from the body of the Susanoo was instantly absorbed into the Mokuden when it was no longer tethered to its master. Within the jewel that was held firmly by the Kitsune's hand, Madara attempted to use chakra, to use his eyes, to do anything, but alas, he couldn't. He felt his chakra draining and the immobilizing effects of the statue as the jewel shattered into pixels of chakra. Naruto appeared in the palm of the Titanic Construct's hand next to an immobilized Madara as thick black lines of kanji spread around his body and encircled his eyes. Naruto bent down into a catcher's stance over Madara and spoke softly to the Uchiha warrior. Madara, return to the pure world and watch what I do with this world. I will show you true peace. I will eliminate as much suffering as I can. I will do everything in my power to bring this world into an age of prosperity. If your soul can endure Yami's punishment until I arrive, then I will forgive you for your crimes against my people. Naruto's voice was stern, as if he were talking down to a petulant child. Madara felt weak as he struggled to do anything, including breathe. The chakra pressure was choking, and he realized that this man in front of him was no longer bound by the restrictions of humanity. He could do nothing as Naruto placed a golden, glowing palm against his stomach, and he watched in amazement as 3 streams of yokai appeared from the Geto Mazo's seal. Madara and the husk of the Jubi struggled against the pull of Naruto, but it wasn't even a contest. The strength of Naruto, empowered by 4 domains of nature and 2 of the strongest Biju, easily bested the Jubi's husk and crumbling will of a man that belonged to the land of the dead. Within minutes, 3 new Biju appeared in Naruto's seal, and they were welcomed by Kurama and Chome. They entered willingly and then assisted in pulling out the remains of their yokai from the Geto Mazo. The strain of the action took its toll on Madara, and the man struggled to remain conscious and alive. Finally, the final shred of yokai was removed from Madara, and Naruto relaxed and sat back on the palm of his thousand-tails statue. With a thought, he was placed on the devastated remains of Iwa before the statue began shrinking as it was reabsorbed into Naruto. Naruto sat next to a supine Madara, and he opened his final conversation with the man. Did you ever regret it? Madara, in question, and Naruto elaborated. Did you ever regret betraying your clan, the hidden leaf, and your best friend? Madara remained in a contemplative silence and ceased his struggles to break free from the seal. After a minute, he responded, I regretted it every day. I felt betrayed by my clan, who ignored my warnings about the curse of hatred. I felt betrayed by Konoha because my clan was denied a true partnership in leading the village, despite Hashirama's attempts to place me as his second in command. I felt disgusted because I betrayed Hashirama. Madara finished in a low and remorseful tone. Then why? Naruto asked simply. Because the infinite Tsukuyomi would have given everyone happiness, even if it were fake, Madara answered. I desperately wanted to live in a happy world where Hashirama and I were able to achieve our dreams. Why didn't you work with him then? Naruto asked. The curse of hatred is a terrible thing, Senju. These eyes make us relive the moment of activation every time they are used. I couldn't get past my brother's death and I always blamed Tobirama for it. For all my strength, I could never forget my hate or see past it. Madara said remorsefully. Then, find peace and pay for your sins in the afterlife. I disagree with almost everything you have done, but I can admire you for your resolve and dedication to your dream. Naruto said softly. Madara closed his eyes with a peaceful smile on his face and he didn't fight the overflow of Senjutsu chakra. Naruto's hand glowed gold as he funneled natural energy in its raw form into Madara. The man's body rapidly turned to stone and Naruto knew that this would be the eternal resting place of the Jubi's husk. With the Rinnegan no more, the Jubi could never be released from this vessel. Naruto focused and called upon his connection to the earth as the statue of Madara Uchiha was pulled down into the depths of the earth. He would carry that secret with him and make sure that nobody ever discovered the remains of the Uchiha legend or of the Geto Mazo. With the battle over, Naruto looked around and winced at what he saw. Iwagakure was more devastated than Konoha was in his previous life. He was able to feel the survivors and he removed the wood domes that surrounded their shelters, but Iwagakure was no more. Only a fifth of the village remained standing and the trails of Madara's Susanoo and his Thousand Tails statue left massive trenches in the middle of the devastated village. Other than that, chunks of earth and meteor fragments were scattered around the city and left almost nothing untouched. Ruto, we are tired. We need to get someplace safe. Kurama said internally as he sensed the drain the intense battle had on his partner. We can take care of the human survivors later. All right, Q. Naruto replied with a yawn. How is everyone in there? Plenty of room, partner. Plenty of room. I am proud of you. Kurama replied as he shoved his excited siblings away. They were each trying to figure out how to use the mind link and they were beginning to annoy Kurama. Good to know, let them know that I will find a home for them later, Naruto said as his eyes began to droop. Naruto's head turned lazily to the left and saw Itachi, Shisui and a wounded Kakashi. Hey, guys, what's up? He asked through his exhaustion. It was the cheery Shisui that looked around and smirked at him. So, I take it we won. Naruto offered a tired chuckle. Yeah, something like that. Tell Iwa I am sorry about the village. Blame Madara. Itachi offered a wry chuckle before he caught Naruto as he passed out. Well, everyone is heading this way anyways. Raza and Gaara have the capital locked down, so let's get them out of the bunkers and figure out who is leading them now. Kakashi groaned as the wound on his abdomen protested his movements. I don't think they even have any Jonin left, and there isn't much left of the village. Itachi shrugged. They probably have elders if they are anything like our village. We just need to end the hostilities officially and return home. Sure enough, the Allied forces closed around Iwagakure, and everyone was surprised by the wide-scale devastation that was seen. There was open weeping and shouts of frustration when the old and young of Iwa were freed from the evacuation bunkers. The devastation that greeted them was soul-crushing and nearly complete in its thoroughness. Their despair grew when they were made to submit to their enemies that now surrounded and occupied their village. The girls and alters raced to Itachi and relieved him of his burden. They cared for the sleeping Naruto and removed him from Iwa. It was a painful enough day and many of those people would do something stupid if they saw him in such a weakened state. The chakra storm continued for days until it eventually fizzled itself out and Iwa would never forget their greatest defeat or the legendary battle that liberally rearranged its landscape. Kami's court. It took Naruto nearly a week to wake up after his battle with Madara. The stress to his body from rapidly absorbing 3 Biju after chucking out a metric crap ton of chakra was severe, even for Naruto. During his slumber, the allied nations attained an unconditional surrender from the remains of Iwagakure and from the Earth Daimyo. Tsuchimuru, the Earth Daimyo, was forced to eat humble pie and he signed an agreement that he was to decommission Iwagakure for the next 10 years. This condition was added because it was clear that Iwa wasn't going to let go of their grudges anytime soon and nobody wanted to deal with that while fixing everything. Naruto awoke in the Suna hospital and groaned as he cracked his eyes open. Kami, he hated bright white lights and antiseptic smells. Naturally, he was greeted by his girls when he woke up, but he was surprised to see Shion there as well. Evidently, she and the children flashed to Suna when they heard about his prolonged unconsciousness. Thus, Naruto woke up to a hospital room full of family and lovers when he finally woke up. Up in her realm, Kami was watching down on this and she was waiting for her children to arrive to have a meeting that would affect the future of her eternity. The goddess was surprised to realize that she was nervous. She hadn't created a child, more commonly referred to by mortals as gods or goddesses, in over 1,000 years. She hadn't really cared much for or intervened in the mortal world for an equal amount of time, and her children were all surprised by her recent changes. As Izanami appeared in her official court and took her seat, Kami looked around and realized everyone was here. Shinigami, the goddess of death, Yami, the goddess of hell, Raijin, the god of thunder and lightning, Susanoo, the god storms and harvests, Izanami, the goddess of land and nature, Susanoo, god of the seas and hurricanes, Amaterasu, goddess of the celestial sun, Tsukuyomi no Makoto, goddess of the night and moon. These 8 gods and goddesses were Kami's first children and composed her court. Kami rose and addressed her children. I have called you all here today to discuss the completion of my champion's quest and his future ascension to godhood. Susanoo, normally a pretty chill god, but he didn't like the idea of his mother settling for a mortal, interrupted in a huff. Mother, why not just leave it at a fling in your mortal form and let the mortal go through the cycle? Kami's rare anger flared at the slight to her lover, and her godly pressure cratered Susanoo in his seat. You will not interrupt me again, and you will keep your unsolicited opinion to yourself. After that, the glowing golden eyes settled back down to their natural beauty, and she continued her address. I entrusted the mortal, Naruto Senju Uzumaki, to restart the new cycle, and I entrusted him with the mission to right the wrongs of the past. HMPH. Susanoo huffed, just because my ancestor won and ended your mortal world. Your idiotic progeny caused the end of the world, brother. Amaterasu said coldly. She was still upset that her brother gave mortals the inverse power of her celestial flames when he created those damnable eyes. Ahem, Kami cleared her throat to halt the argument. I have not called you here to hash out old grudges. The fact is that the mortal realm is now restored and is on a good path. Mother, not to be crass, but the mortal managed to stop this Akatsuki organization the last time around as well. You entrusted him the mission of leading the mortals into a new cycle. I do not believe he has fulfilled that mission yet. Izanami said before continuing. I am pleased with the mortal's control over my domain and his use of it, but my point stands. Shinigami, the second most powerful goddess, scoffed. He has united the humans and houses 5 of the Biju. Not to mention, he retains pieces of 2 others. He will accomplish his task. Sister is right, Yami backed up the Shinigami. I have watched this mortal and know he will not fail. Plus, there is the issue of him now wielding divine power. HMPH. Susanoo interrupted once more. Hagoromo had divine power, Kagaya had divine power, and look what they did with it. A millennium of war and destruction is what we got in return for that gift. So, am I to understand that you will not back his ascension? Kami asked with an icy tone that made the gods shift uneasily. Mother, why are you so fixed upon this mortal? It makes no sense. He has 3 mortal wives in addition to your avatar. Raijin shouted with lightning flashing around him. He will inevitably disappoint you and will prove unworthy of divinity. Amaterasu groaned. Can we just get the vote over with? I am starting to remember why I haven't seen my brothers in centuries. Tsukuyomi made herself known for the first time. I agree. I have felt the mortal's soul and I have borne witness to his triumphs. I vote to watch the mortal and reconvene in 30 years. That will surely be enough time for the mortal to prove himself worthy or unworthy. Kami sighed as Tsukuyomi's vote passed and she would be forced to wait on her chosen. She knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Naruto would prove worthy, but it was still depressing for the goddess. She found comfort in knowing that she would be with her chosen, at least in part, for that duration, but it was still depressing. Why did she even listen to her children again? Oh, yeah, she chose not to be a tyrannical dictator. Damned honor and sentiment. Naruto's 21st birthday. Naruto woke up in the fire capital on his birthday surrounded by the women he loved. His baby monitor was going crazy as Richie and Kylie were shrieking loudly. They were the final 2 children that Temari agreed to have because the burden of twins was too much for her to bear. That didn't stop her from loving every single one of her 4 children, and she shuffled out of bed to collect her 2 young twins. Naruto let his eyes soak in her beautiful, toned, motherly form as she donned her nightgown and went to collect the twins. Before Temari could put on her gown, the door to the master bedroom flew open and 9 children rushed in, led by Hashi, and they jumped on their parents' bed. Temari ruffled the hair of Kori and Orion, the 2 of the bunch that were hers, before she left to collect the twins. The 9 children jumped on top of their father and moms with the energy that was unique to children in the morning. Naruto groaned playfully before 9 clones puffed into existence and began wrestling with the children ranging in age from 7 to just under 3. "Take it outside," Ino groaned tiredly. "Ah, Mom," Hashi protested as one of his father's clones had him pinned on top of his mother. "Yeah, Mom," Catalina, Ino's second child, joined in protest, "You're no fun." Before she broke out in giggles from one of her father's clones. "Yeah, Mom, it's Daddy's big day." Arashir joined in the shouting until Samui snatched her son from the clone's grasp and hugged the 5-year-old. Samui's second son, Ai, broke free from the clone and latched onto Samui's shoulders. "Yay. Let's go, Mama. We gotta get ready." Naruto's clones brought Shien's 3 blonde-haired and golden-eyed children down to the waking beauty. The goddess, Vessel, wasn't happy about having triplets, but she considered it a beautiful opportunity to appreciate the miracle of childbirth. Reiji jumped onto his mother and hugged her. "Get up, Mama. Today is the big day." Kaylee joined her brother. "Yeah, Mama. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's a beautiful day. The skies are clear and full of cheer, wake up, it's a beautiful day." Her soft little voice sang part of the song that Shien used to sing the kids to sleep. Zoe, the youngest of the triplets, decided to jump as high as she could before she knee-dropped her mother's sleeping form. Before the excitable girl could say anything, Shien rose from the bed and scooped the 3 children into her arms. The gaggle of children giggled loudly as their mother showered them in kisses, tickles and snuggles. Tsunade and Kurama appeared at the door carrying their son Ruto, obviously named in honor of our blonde hero that means the most to the 2 of them. "What's all this noise about?" Tsunade asked facetiously. "Granny." The children shouted in unison, and for once the tick mark didn't appear on Tsunade's temple. She was so grateful for the love of her great-grandchildren, but if anyone ever called her a great-grandma, she would use the mountain breaker punch on their behinds. As the children rushed their granny and grandpa, 4 disheveled blondes got themselves out of bed to get ready. "G-morning, Mama," Naruto said through a yawn. "G-morning Q." The 2 adults nodded their heads, but their attention was consumed by the gaggle of children. "Are you ready, my love?" Shien asked as she came up behind Naruto and wrapped her slim arms around Naruto's abdomen. Naruto clasped the arms to him tightly and leaned back into the blonde beauty. "Just another day, my love. New Uzu is already up and running and Wave is doing just fine." Ino joined the bedside hug. "Yeah, but today it is official, and the Biju Accords will be signed." "Yeah, Ruto, everyone is here, and it is going to be a good day," Kurama said excitedly. A hectic morning full of children, breakfast, family and friends was hosted by Kinji in the residence of the daimyo in the fire capital. Kinji had proven to be a valuable ally, and he was instrumental in the big picture changes that Naruto incorporated throughout the elemental nations. Kinji helped get the other daimyos together, he helped revise the treaties and organize the personnel to incorporate many changes. For Kinji's part, he was grateful for the opportunity to partner with Naruto, and he considered it the honor of his lifetime to do so. As Naruto was finishing up breakfast, his friend, fellow daimyo and fellow actress came up and slinked her arms around his neck. Funnily enough, Koyuki was still blonde, and she had proven herself to the girls that she was into Naruto for the long haul. Over the 5 years she knew Naruto, they had created 4 movies together that all originated from Naruto's best-selling book series. Even Shien, on behalf of Kami, relented and allowed her to join the Sisterhood of Wives, but she said that she would have to wait until Naruto was a daimyo. Perhaps that was why Koyuki was so excited today. The rowdy group of Senju Uzumakis made their way to the daimyo's castle where Naruto would be announced as the daimyo of Whirlpool and Wave. He would give his address and announce his intentions for the nations. He would also introduce the Biju Accords to the public before he would go to the Council of Daimyos to get it ratified. It was set to be a long day, but at the end of the day all of Fire Country would party. Naruto gulped nervously as 4 sets of hands found their places on his back and shoulders to provide support and courage. The roar of the crowd was deafening, and Naruto could see almost every citizen from the Fire Capital as well as representatives from every nation and every hidden village in the elemental nations. His keen eyesight could see all of his friends and their families, his ears could pick up the excitement and his senses were overloaded with the expectations of his audience. Before Naruto was called forward, he took a deep breath and allowed his girls to smooth out his daimyo robes that were a deep sea blue with golden waves hemmed into the robes. He heard Kinji announce him, and he stepped out onto the balcony and was greeted by a roar from the crowd that lasted for nearly 5 minutes before he rose his hands and silence descended over the crowd. He looked to his right and saw the humanoid forms of the 9 Biju standing next to their human partners. He looked to his left and saw the Council of Daimyo and Kage all watching him with analytical eyes and keen interest in their hearts. Naruto took a deep breath and began his address. People of the elemental nations, my Biju brethren and my fellow daimyo, I thank you for recognizing me as the daimyo and leader of Wave and Whirlpool. I swear with all that I am that I will do my utmost to serve my people selflessly, that I will commit myself to my lands and people with honor and integrity as my guiding principles. I swear to do all that I can to help as many people in the elemental nations as I can. Naruto paused here as a roar of cheers and whistles came from the crowd. This lasted longer than the first and he had time to see Neji and Tenten with their baby girl on Neji's shoulders. He wanted to laugh when he saw Choji tossing his baby boy into the air before Karui bonked him on the head. He nearly guffawed when he saw Lee pumping his fist into the air and screaming loudly with Shizuka next to him with her head in her hands. Finally, he found peace when he saw Mabui, and her child accompanied by Darui. He knew that the child was Ai's and he greatly respected Darui for accepting that honor and responsibility. As the roars died down, Naruto cleared his throat and spoke again. Moving forward, I want to continue the age of peace and prosperity. I want New Uzu to be a member of the nations and I offer it as a neutral ground for all. I want to move away from the past of rivalry, war, devastation and destruction and my deepest desire is to guide the elemental nations to a brighter future. The future I see for our nations is a future of abundance and innovation. The future I see uses chakra and the miracles it brings to help people. I have no doubt in my mind, heart or soul that if we work together that we will see this brighter future. This time, the cheering was accompanied by a short burst of fireworks and a couple fancy fire jutsu that were blown from the roof of the daimyo's palace. As the show played out, Naruto held up his hands in a request for silence once more. A peaceful smile settled over his face and appeared on television screens around the continent and on the big screens in the plaza. Part of the new peace that we are working towards is redefining the relationship between humanity and Biju. For those that don't know, the Biju, the monsters of legend that we were all taught to fear, are actually chakra entities that were left by the Sage of Six Paths to help guide humanity on the path of Ninshu. In order to avoid a lecture, Ninshu was the belief that, through chakra, humanity would be able to grow closer, truly understand one another and that understanding would lead us away from war into prosperity. Naruto paused here to take a breath and let the audience digest what he was saying. Alas, that didn't happen, and humanity took the gift of chakra and used it for war. Man was given the ability to bend nature to his will and the only thing we used it for was our own selfish desires confounded by wars against our fellow man. I ask you, my fellow people of the elemental nations, do you not prefer how I chose to use chakra? Do you not prefer the prosperous fields, the safety in your homes, the safer and quicker journeys to neighboring lands? Once again, a thunderous roar of approval echoed across Fire Country, and it was accompanied by shouts of agreement from those watching the address remotely. Naruto could feel his speech was working and that it was galvanizing the people. Once more, he held up his hands in a request for silence. This is where the Biju come in. Each of them is a nearly endless source of chakra and each of them can reshape landscapes, perform miracles that can be used for the benefits of our people, and they are willing to partner with humanity to help us care for this earth. Today, I introduce the Biju Accords to you. These accords will be signed by every leader, every future leader and every Biju. These accords will end the imprisonment of the Biju and it will outlaw the use of their mighty power for war. Today, it is my hope that the leaders of each nation recognize that it is time to set aside past grudges and move forward to prosperity. I do not wish to fill you with false hope. Suffering, pain, death, inequality and the other negative aspects of life will still exist. However, today will begin the international partnership that says we will not let them reign over us. Today, we say that we will combat those terrible realities in unison. Naruto softened his tone for the end of his address. Today, I ask you to trust me. I ask you to work alongside me. I ask that you believe in my dream, and I ask you to trust my 9 partners that the world knows as the Biju. Naruto extended his right hand in a welcoming gesture for the 9 Biju, and they lined up and approached Naruto. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Shukaku, the one-tailed tanuki. He has power over earth and sands and is partnered with Subaku no Gaara. Next, we have Matabi partnered with Niyugido, the 2-tailed cat has domain over flames and rebirth. Isobu is the 3-tailed turtle partnered with Hakuyuki that can bear the tides of the ocean and the coral that shelters the creatures of the seas. Son Goku is the 4-tailed lava ape that has domain over lava and volcanoes. He has chosen to partner with Mei Terumi, the previous Mizukage. Kokuo is partnered with my wife Tamari Senju Uzumaki, and he is the 5-tailed dolphin horse. He bears the power of steam and winds. Seiken is the 6-tailed slug, partnered with Tsunade Senju, the slug Sanin. Seiken creates powerful acid that can be used to break down precious minerals and metals. Chome, the 7-tailed horned beetle, partnered with Shino Aburame, is the queen of insects and can help increase the fertility of our crops and fields. Finally, Kurama, the 9-tailed kitsune, my partner, with the power of wind, fire and life. I introduce you to them today in hopes that we can move past past transgressions and move forward into a better future. Naruto wasn't surprised when mutterings broke out. Everyone in the crowd had heard of the rampages of the Biju. A fair number of people in the crowd had been impacted negatively by the Biju at some point or another. This was a revolutionary idea and there was a fair amount of fear and uncertainty laced into their mutterings. Naruto took a deep breath and had the Biju stand behind him before he channeled chakra to his voice once more. The past is there for us to learn from our mistakes so that we may avoid them in the future. I acknowledge the fact that many of you have been hurt by the Biju in one way or another. I do not hide from that. However, for the past century, we have robbed sentient beings of their freedom, stolen their chakra and used them against their will to commit acts of war. That is the past. Moving forward, under the Biju Accords, every Biju, Biju partner, daimyo, leader of hidden villages and every future leader will sign onto these accords. They will swear to never again raise their hands against humanity unprovoked. The leaders will never order them to commit acts of war or aggression. Their partners will swear to use their powers for the benefits of the many. Once again, I ask for your faith, I ask you to follow me and believe in me. I swear on the Uzumaki and Senju clans, the things I hold most dear, that I will not abuse your trust. Naruto ended his address with a deep bow to the audience and the crowd was hushed for a while before a massive uproar of approval could be heard. Naruto rose from his bow and Kinji came forward to place his daimyo hat on Naruto's head. His hat was a sea blue with a white kanji for 9 on it. His crowning caused another surge of excitement in the crowd, and everyone was ready to move forward into a brighter future. After the inauguration, Naruto pleaded his case to the leaders of the elemental nations. He promised benefits to the signatories, and he heard out concerns from the leaders of many nations, especially the smaller nations. Before the leaders of every nation, the Biju and their partners all signed a celestial contract binding them to their oaths. This went a long way to assuage the fears of many leaders. The meeting was long, but it ended with every leader of every nation signing onto the accords. Kami's court, Naruto's 30th birthday. Kami once again summoned her children to her court, but this time she had a smug look of victory on her face, and she was doing very little to obscure it. She looked around at her gathered children and locked eyes with each one of them. Each glance was filled to the brim with, "I told you so," and the goddess of creation reveled in the humbled looks of her children. Today, I have summoned you to readdress Naruto Senju Uzumaki's ascension. Kami began, he has completed both of my assigned tasks and it is undeniable that the world has moved into a new age. The cycle of hatred has been broken and the age of prosperity has started. Each of you has gained devoted followers and risen in power due to the actions of my chosen, my eternal husband. I once again call for a vote on the acknowledgement of our marriage and his ascension to divinity under the domains of fatherhood and innovation. Susanoo stood up. Mother, I acknowledge the mortal, Naruto Senju Uzumaki. This was followed by the other 8 members of Kami's court doing the same thing. The fact that the first acknowledgement came from the previous biggest obstructor stood as testament to the good works of Naruto. Yami yawned. Mother, it has been boring in hell lately. Far fewer mortals are being sent to my domain. You were complaining for millennia and asking for vacations not 20 years ago, Shinigami muttered under her breath. Yami scoffed at that and humphed with her nose up. Susanoo, god of the seas, looked mighty pleased. The Biju, Isobu and Kokuo, specifically, have been a great help in my domain. What is to happen with the Biju after Naruto's ascension? Kami tapped a finger to her lower lip. That is open for discussion. I have my reservations about leaving them in the mortal realm without Naruto as their leader. He has assured me that his progeny will be able to manage in his absence, but I have a feeling that is likely to change. Amaterasu, with a small blush on her face, asked, when will Ruto be coming to join us? Kami cast a small glare of possessiveness and jealousy towards her daughter. Ruto will join us upon the natural deaths of his mortal wives. They will each be sheltered and allowed to continue their marriages alongside me in my domain. Lucky bastard, Susanoo muttered, which earned a nod from Susanoo. Kami smiled at her 2 petulant sons. Indeed he is. Now that the vote is approved, I dismiss this council to be reconvened when Naruto is ready to pass from the mortal realm. Naruto's 90th birthday. Good morning, Q. Naruto said as he walked into the quiet kitchen of his home. Morning, Ruto. Kurama said as he sat down next to his partner. It isn't the same without them here. Naruto nodded sadly. I agree. I think it is time for me to go. About that, Kurama said hesitantly, I want to go with you. Naruto looked up. The same ageless visage he has had for the past 60 years looked into Kurama's eyes. I realize that my soul is bound to you, and it is bound to Tsunade. I haven't been whole since she passed. Naruto nodded sadly in understanding. Okay. I think we can arrange that. Will you still be my partner? Kurama smirked at Naruto as fire reappeared in the red eyes of the kitsune. Always and forever, my friend. Turns out, the other Biju were ready to pass on as well. With their father's dream now accomplished, their power was no longer needed on the earth. They were ready to join their friends and loved ones in Kami's realm, and they all petitioned the goddess of creation to make it happen. Each of the Biju, except for Kurama, was to partner with one of her children to assist in the domain that fit them best. The Biju each accepted this deal, and Kami allowed them to each have a chosen. A mortal that could carry on their role and will in the mortal realm, much like Naruto was her chosen. Each of these chosen was gifted with the abilities of the Biju, and they had supernatural abilities above normal mortals. Each Biju and God pair had a fun time devising tests and trials for their chosen, and it was all done for the good of humanity and the glory of the gods. Each god had grown accustomed to the praise and joy of their followers, and the divine realm was overflowing with power and positivity as a result. Even Yami had enjoyed the new pacing, and she partnered with Nibi to punish the unrepentant. As Naruto stepped out of his home and into New Uzu, he reveled in the glory of the island paradise. The island was about 5 times larger than it started, and it linked to Wave Country via a mile-long bridge that Naruto made. It was thanks to the lava and creation from Son Goku and Kurama that the island was expanded, which served as a testament to the power of the Biju. The city acted as a central trading hub for the elemental nations, and the benefits were obvious. Naruto called for a summit of the leaders as well as a family meeting. He told them of his intentions, and his parting was greeted by wails and protestations of many. His family, now over 400 men, women and children that composed 4 generations, protested the loudest, saying that they still needed his guidance. The leaders each protested the passing of the Biju, but their worries were assuaged when Naruto informed them of the plan for the chosen. After his 90th birthday party, as the sun set over the beautiful ocean waters of Whirlpool Country, Naruto was called to the pure world along with his 9 Biju companions. He would go on to rule alongside Kami and the other gods to care for their realm and their creations as the god of fatherhood and innovation. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next part.